Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 7 of Les Oderants, a nicest perfume podcast in the whole world where we do almost nothing but blow smoke up the arses of perfume brands because we are gargantuan shills. I am Dan and I am joined by the best perfume people in the known universe. Fliss, Ben, James, say hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Ta-da. Excellent. Right. I have nothing exciting to report about perfume this week, so I am going to arbitrarily pick on Fliss to go directly into tell us something exciting about perfume this week, please.
Well, the most exciting perfume thing that happened, of course, was the Scentiest Awards, which I attended last Saturday as a member of the podcast, because we were up for Best Podcast, which we didn't win, which is fine.
We won.
Well, we won in spirit.
No, we won. We won
of course we did, Dan.
because I'm simply rejecting the premise that anybody else won. The Les Oderants team.
You can't just get up at the awards ceremony and go, I won.
Yeah, if Michael Jackson can fucking do it, I can do it, all right?
It's a good job that it was just me there, wasn't it?
It is.
There's not much you can say that about Michael Jackson, eh?
Yeah. That's the
Get away from that school.
Guys.
Hey, if Michael can do it.
Yeah. Get away from that monkey. What? No, hang on.
I'd love to have a monkey as a pet.
I mean, in effect, we did win because I had a lovely evening and I met loads of fans and everyone had lots of lovely things to say about us. So we did. We won.
Okay,
Boom.
Good. We won.
I didn't even know the Scentiest thing was happening.
Hang on.
Oh,
You're not allowed to talk again, Ben. You're not allowed to talk again.
Am I in the sin bin already?
No, until you explain why you want a monkey as a pet.
Oh, well, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it? I mean, my dog is sort of 50% monkey, I reckon. And that's fun enough.
Your dog is not 50% monkey.
At least. He eats bananas. I mean, he climbs on my shoulders.
No, it wouldn't be amazing. As someone who studied biological anthropology at university and started a PhD in primatology, there isn't a single species of monkey that you want as a pet.
What about those ones that haven't got the big enough fingers to rip your face off?
They just piss
like
everywhere. They stink.
Oh, well, you know.
Short-fingered pissing monkeys.
And there's no Father Christmas.
Oh, man. Oh, hang on. I had such good intentions for this podcast.
I know. We were going to start straight and talk about perfume, weren't we? But
right. Let's go back to the Scentiest Awards, which, for all of our listeners, the Scentiest Awards were kicked off by Thomas East, a.k.a. The Scentiest. And I actually got to peek behind the curtain and see the voting. There were about 800 votes cast, which I think, is quite a lot, actually, for a first iteration, first generation set of awards. And I think Tom did a really good job, or at least it looked like it, on the rather dodgy Instagram feed that I was able to follow along. How was it in person, Fliss?
It was really nice. It was very, very informal and fun. Obviously, didn't win, but we did a panel.
Well, we did.
We won. We did a panel of a smell along of all of the shortlisted best releases of 23 frags, which was really interesting in terms of just. What was amazing actually was, as a panel trying to talk, but actually as the perfumes were being passed around, how much conversation was being generated by these essentially really hardcore frag heads who were all there just loving it. And the level of conversation and debate about things was really heartening to see. And it was great. And there was a lot of bonhomie and fun. And I'm not surprised at some of the winners that won, but I also had some of the things that I thought stood out for me. I've got them written down. I think Amouage Guidance won Best Perfume Release 2023, and which is a massive people pleaser. the things for me that stood out were Delta of Venus by Eris. And I just think, that some of the smaller houses maybe didn't get the voting because not everyone had tried them. But it was lovely, and there was lots of people, and we all went to the pub afterwards, and a lot of people were staying. I mean, I think I went to bed at midnight, and there were still people in the bar. So it was great.
Oh, did you stay over?
I did. I stayed in. Well, I just thought I really didn't want to come home all the way to Margate on a train at night, like at midnight, getting in at 1. I was just like, oh, that could be icky, so I didn't do that. There was a lot of vanillas. And it was really interesting to see that whole kind of the trend for this year and the voting and the shortlisting of all of these vanillas, some of which I think were better than others. And some of them I just thought were a little bit derivative, if I'm honest. I think that the Acro Bake, which was a favourite, really smells very much like Unknown Pleasures by Kerosene. It's really riding off the back of that hyper gourmand, which seems to be the fashion at the moment. I think it's really interesting that who's the name of the guy that did it? It's just gone out of my head.
Olivier Cress.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me that he did Devotion, which was also released in 2023, which I'd smelt the day before by accident. Basically, I'd gone into Boots to smell it because I thought I ought to smell it because I wanted to sort of work out in terms of Acro Bake how it's going to be. And I accidentally put the sprayer on the end of my nose and it was still wet. And so I just smelled Devotion for the rest of the day, and it just made me feel really ill. And it was very, very, very sweet. And he's just basically gone, hello, je make this lovely lemon cake for you, Acro. And now, shh, I got to go over here and do it again for D&G. And it's like...
Is that your impression of Olivier Cress?
Kind of, yeah.
I don't know what Olivia Cress sounds like, so I'm just going to assume that was a perfect impression.
A generic, amusing voice, but I can do another one if you like.
Maybe later. Maybe during
the break.
She's a seasoned actor, remember?
Yes, indeed.
She's got loads of voices in the lot.
I really
do. So as the most notable winner of the Scentiest Awards was the best Instagram content creator, which was won by the Scentiest.
Bless him, he was really embarrassed.
I bet he was. So I was teasing him on his Instagram. I was like, so wait, hang on, you won your own award. Well done, you. But I was only teasing him. I mean, he was like, well, honestly, I didn't know what to do because, that's how the voting worked out. And if I'd have sort of said, well, no, I can't possibly give it to myself, I would have looked a bit kind of like I was manipulating stuff. And it was like, you had to choose the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, he was. There's no way to win in there, is there, in that situation?
No.
Well, the only thing I would say, and like I say, I don't know this guy. I know he's probably a really nice fella.
He's lovely.
He genuinely is. Yeah.
Genuinely lovely.
Well, I'm just saying it in terms of I'm sort of slightly detached from this because I didn't really know who he was or what this was and stuff until the other week. But I think because I sort of laughed when I saw that he was in the even in the categories, and I think you said to me, "Oh well, people insisted that he was in the categories." I think that maybe you might not put yourself in there because I think people may have felt obliged to vote for him, possibly because it was his awards. And then
no, sorry, I don't think at any point he sort of said, "Here's the people you can choose from." It was literally, nominate whoever. Yeah, completely open vote. Nominate whoever you want.
Total open voting.
Oh, I see.
So there was no
But he. So, I don't know whether I should share this story. No, fuck it, I will. So, Tom, he's a handsome guy, right? But, he's quite sort of low-key looking. He doesn't look like sort of he's just stepped off a catwalk or something. But he's a handsome guy. And we were sat outside.
You fancy him, we get it.
Yeah, all right. Maybe a little bit. But we were sat outside a cafe just outside Harrods because we were sort of meeting a bunch of other people. And girl who bought his coffee out, I'm not joking, she put the coffee down for Tom, and she just kind of stared at him all fucking like goo-goo eyes for about 10-15 seconds. He didn't even notice, and he sort of looked up and just went, "Oh, thank you," and she was like, I was like, fuck, how do you do that, mate? And he was like, I don't know, what did I do?
I wear noted aromas.
That would have been brilliant. That would have been genius.
Maybe does he do cobbing?
Cobbing. Oh no! Oh God, no!
Maybe that was the secret to his success with the ladies.
God, I hope not. Okay, we should probably explain cobbing.
I was going to move on.
Okay, well, I think Ben can explain cobbing and why James even brought it up when we get to Ben.
It's nothing to do with me.
Yeah, well, it's okay. No, you're right. It's your girlfriend.
No, she's your girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. It's your.
Whoa! You've got to explain it now.
There's no plausible deniability here, Ben.
It's just
what is cobbing, Ben?
So, according to Urban Dictionary, isn't it? Because it's not from me. It's not from my other half. She found on Urban Dictionary something called cobbing, which is the opposite of vabbing, which is apparently it's rubbing a bit of your pre-cum on yourself to supposedly use pheromones or whatever, like as a perfume, which is absolute. I can't think of anything worse for multiple reasons. Like my first thing that came to mind, honestly, was who sort of like edges themselves to the point where they're like leaking, rubs it on themselves, and then goes, right, let's go out. That's a recipe for disaster. Like.
But there's TikTok videos about it, aren't there? There's like a whole thing.
I think I am going to be sick. Oh my God. Oh my fucking God.
Do you know what? There's very little that makes me go, but the word pre-cum. Not for me.
Not a fan.
Not for me.
No, not for me. Yeah. Okay, good.
I was going to tell a really horrendous anecdote about that, but I can't even do it.
No, let's not.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
I can't do it. Wow, it's that bad.
I might tell you privately,
it is perfume related, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have no anecdote, so yes.
Right. I mean,
it's a first for you, darling.
To be honest, guys, on this podcast, we've had James's the dog shit story. We've had Ben's I wouldn't mind being pegged story. I mean, we've got a pretty low fucking bar on this. So I mean, True. James, if you want to share. Although probably we should give listeners, like just a little bit of warning. So if they're, dumb enough to be listening to this, like in front of their families.
Even James he's thinking about it. That's got to be pretty
really
bad.
Worried.
No, the thing is, it's been built up too much now, and then you might go, oh, fucking hell, that's like rubbish now. So maybe another time. Remember,
save
everyone.
it for the Christmas episode.
Yeah, pre-cum story. Everyone remember that.
James's pre-cum story.
Yeah.
Good. Right, I wonder what the blurb for this episode will say on Instagram. Right, Fliss, I'm so sorry. We seem to have got horribly off track. You were attending. I mean, the last I heard, you were attending the awards, and then 20 minutes of nonsense.
Who was on the panel with you, Fliss?
Brandon.
There was exactly. I was about to say Brandon, who I'd never met before in real life. Such the suave, so well dressed, very lovely. I have to say.
I believe, I may have got this wrong, but I'm sure someone told me that part of Brandon's previous career was like as a sort of like style advisor to very high-end shoppers. So he's a very well-presented chap.
Incredibly well-presented. He has he's got just the sweetest amount of swag as well, just enough to go, oh, hello, love. He
looked like he was delivering milk tray.
He did.
I didn't. Lots to be said for that look.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And I think the way that because obviously I know who's on the panel, I was just asking the question, but I think the pictures I saw, the way you had this kind of maternal sort of look in your eye, you were like really like looking at him really nice, like he looked like he was talking or something.
I mean, he is young enough to be one of my sons, yes, so of course I was looking at him like
I wasn't implying that, but I mean,
dodgy if I was like, oh, hello, come back to the hotel.
Hello, darling.
No.
No. I feel like none of our episodes really go like in a straight line from A to B, but this one seems to have had some really bad B to us. So
right, okay. Let's stop talking about the awards, which were gorgeous, and I can't wait for next year because I think they're really they've started something which is going to be fantastic.
I agree, by the way, and I am definitely going to attend next year. But also, I am going to go full on, like, the king of pop or whatever, and just declare that I am the winner on stage for the podcast. Totally. Anyway, like, I know they voted for other people, but no. So. No. So just do that. It'll be fine.
Just do that. It'll be fine. No one will notice. No one will notice at all. What else did I do? So while I was at the awards, I met Nick Chanel Nick Chanel. That's not his real name. That's his Insta name. And he gave me a little bag of nice things. And Hasano Hana was in there.
Yes. Yes, you were going to try that last week. We talked about it.
Very, very nice. I mean, it just really...
Yeah, very nice.
No, but I mean it in I don't mean it in a nice... I don't mean it like it's nice. I mean, it's really nice.
Nice.
Yes, this is a deep growling nice.
Okay, good.
So... classy, and when it first started, there was those lovely bright woods, and I was like, this is good. And I wondered if it was going to be a bit more masculine potentially than something that I would necessarily wear, and then it just descends into this layers and layers of these dusty, velvety, sort of very gentle florals. There's almost like a heliotrope quality to the tonka in it, and it's hay-like and sweet and soft, and it feels incredibly vintage. It feels very like it. I can't explain it other than to say that it very quickly settled to a place where it felt like lived in. And I know we talked the other week about there was a perfume that I felt was wearing me, and I had to. It was one of the Frances Kierkegaard ones, wasn't it? That I just had to wash it off because
Yeah, sorry, I won't interrupt you, but when you've finished on that one, I do have something to say about that exact one. But yeah. So I had that experience with testing a new perfume that I just felt was just on me as opposed to me being part of it or being part of me. But with the Hasano Hana, it just felt suddenly very, very melded, if that makes a sensible explanation. It just felt like there was just a bubble of class. Soft, tonkery, hay-like, slightly sweet without being gourmand, just lovely class. And I can see very easily how this could be somebody's... the pussy kitten has just broken a glass.
Oh, no,
James.
Oh, dear.
I was going to say I could see very easily how it could become a signature scent. It's something that I could really see myself wearing just every day and not having to think about. I could wear it to the office, I could wear it to a party, I could wear it, whatever. Very, very, very easily. Yeah, I really, really liked it. I think I need to play with it some more and wear it some more. But, initially I was just a bit like, wow, basically.
I think it's an absolute stunner. And it's way more feminine than I would normally wear. But I just wanted to mention it was the MFK.
Was it the silver?
It was Oud Satin Mood. Yeah. And I found myself in John Lewis the other day, and I thought, I'll give that Oud Satin Mood another go. Sprayed it. Funnily enough, sort of walked over to the till to pay for some stuff, and the woman on the till said, "Oh, you smell amazing." I was like, maybe, yeah. I mean, I just sprayed some perfume 10 minutes ago from the other part of your shop, so that's me, all class, Robin perfume. But I sort of enjoyed it for about 10 minutes, but I had a similar experience to you. It felt like it was just kind of like just destroying everything in its path, and it was very linear as well. There was really no development or anything exciting. It just it's a pleasant enough smell for a bit, but you just don't want to smell like that for a long time.
I liked it better after I'd scrubbed it off and there was still a little bit left, and then the wafting of what was left after the scrub was very good.
Yeah.
But just even the one or two sprays that I had, I just felt were relentless, and I was just like, I can't do this.
Which, interestingly, is a very similar experience to what I had, because I put my coat on the next day and could smell it and thought, oh, that smells really nice. And all it was where, like my collar had rubbed against my neck. I hadn't sprayed it on my clothes or anything, but that was enough to just sort of smell.
A little bit of pre-cum, just a little.
Oh, Fliss. Oh, Fliss.
I couldn't help it. I'm so sorry.
Oh, Fliss, you've ruined my week. I mean, even James is disappointed with you.
He just rolled his eyes at me. I'm so naughty. I'm sorry.
I
apologise to everybody.
Don't say pre-cum again. Pre-cum again?
Pre-cum again?
That sounds like something...
I'm very proud of myself for getting that one in there, though, so
good.
Whatever.
That sounds like something they'd say on Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Pre-cum again? Anyway, okay, good. So, apart from Hasunohana, what else?
Only one more I really think is worth me chatting about, and that was Portrayal by Amouage, which I think is now discontinued. But lovely Ian Dyson sent me some because I was looking for some, and he sent it to me way earlier in the summer, and I tried it and it was just too much. And I was like, oh God, I need to wait for it just not to be 90 degrees. And I wore it again the day before yesterday, and I really enjoyed it. It's like a huge tobacco jasmine. It does feel very vintage, and it reminds me of a vintage jasmine that it's just scratching at my brain and I can't remember what it is. But yeah, I do like those older Amouages, especially the ones that have been discontinued. With that and Figment, I really like. I don't know, I think that those early releases, I don't know why they're discontinuing them, because I think they're great. But,
I'm hoping the postman brings me a bottle of Jubilation 40 this week. I'm very excited about that. But yeah, okay, good. So that was the only other one worth mentioning, eh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's do someone else.
Yeah, let's do someone else. Well, I mean, I always like to save James for last. So, Ben, tell us about your perfume week or fortnight.
Well, the weather's got absolutely minus degrees, right? All of a sudden, and I do quite like to kind of sometimes sort of match the weather with what you're wearing, sort of thing. And so I kind of revisited stuff that I thought would be a bit sort of denser or more I don't know, just work really well. And I wore, and I talked about it before, but I've never actually talked about it. I've mentioned it, but I've never really gone into detail. But I wore Vetiver Oriental by Serge Luton, which I haven't worn for ages, but I used to love it. And for a long, long time, I was like, this is my, end game vetiver that's just, brilliant. And I didn't like it as much. It was, really bitter, really interesting fragrance. And I can see why I liked it so much when I first got it, because it's I don't know, has anyone else have smelt it?
No.
It's loopy. It's the vetiver in it is quite spiky, and that type of vetiver that is more woody and sort of rough, rather than that kind of grassy sort of bit more free, easy going sort of vetivers. It's very dense, dark. I reckon there's probably a fair bit of what's Nagamorta cypriol oil. I reckon there's probably a fair bit of cypriol in there as well, which gives it this kind of earthy, dense, sort of dark, bitter sort of scent. But it mixes it in this weird way with a sort of dark chocolate, a sweet dark chocolate, and it's bizarre because one minute you've got this quite spiky, aggressive smelling sort of perfume, and then it flips on its head and suddenly you start getting more of the chocolate, and it's suddenly quite smooth and almost, I wouldn't say feminine, but like very sweet, gourmandy.
When did it come out?
Quite a while ago. It was early 2000s, I think. Like, I'm gonna just off the top of my head say 2004, but that's.
I thought I'd like to say I don't. I've seen like new bottles of it, and I think I tried it in the shop.
Oh, it was launched in 2004. How do you like them apples?
Oh, look at you!
That's my.
I've
luck
seen
for
the new
week.
bottles. It's very green, isn't it?
Yes, it's dark green. Yeah.
Is yours an old bottle?
It's one of the old square ones with the black label. But it's it's old, but it's not like super old. It's probably not from 2004.
No.
It's probably sort of like early 2010, something like that. But it's a bizarre fragrance. I still liked it, but I didn't like it as much as I did. You know, I feel like I found better vetivers now. But it was an interesting one, and I just thought
what is your end game vetiver now? Then you reckon?
Mask Milano Hemingway. It's magic. I love that. It's got this like raw sort of leather with like very very raw green leather with vetiver, and it's a little bit stomach turning at first, but then it settles into like just a strong in your face vetiver. It's really good. Nice. I like that. Yeah. But Vetiver Oriental was definitely interesting. So when I wore it, I was like, oh, I'll remember this for the podcast because this is worth talking about. Because I've mentioned it before, and it's Serge Lutens, so everyone knows it's going to be interesting. But it really was like a strange fragrance and really good. Worth probably like giving a go if you're into vetivers. It's surely worth like having at least a sample of it. But
I do like a vetiver. My end game vetiver, I think, is the Dior one. Which I think is sublime. I tried it once very early on in my and if I ever say fragrance journey, you may punch me on sight. But I've tried it very early on when I was getting into perfumes and wasn't all that impressed, but on revisit, I think that's an absolute fucking belter.
I really like it, but it's, and we were talking about a fragrance quite similar to it in the next section. But it's these like Vetiver Oriental and Hemingway are like almost like a different plane of existence to that sort of vetiver, because I think that's the more the like Dior vetiver is more smooth, isn't it, and like classy and refined, whereas these are very raw, like ripped out the ground with the like roots hanging off and the mud hanging off the roots still attached kind of thing. They're very like quite aggressive in a way in comparison, but both really dark. I liked it.
Cool.
And the other one that I thought sort of surprised me and I thought was possibly worth mentioning as well, because I won't be talking about this in the second half, but I wore it because of the second half. So I wore Lidge for the first time in probably about 10 years, and I thought it was dreadful. I thought it was really bad. And I've got a bottle of it, and the spray is broken, which is the reason I don't tend to wear it, because it's just a fanny to get it to work.
It's the one with the black side.
We should just say what Lidge stands for.
L'Homme Idéal. No, L'Homme.
L'Instant de Guerlain, isn't it?
L'Instant de Guerlain.
L'Instant de Guerlain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and then the Lidge is extreme version, isn't it?
Extreme, is it something?
Yeah. And I very rarely wear it. I bought it back in the day because it was Lidge. Do you know what I mean? And you have to try it at least. So I just bought it like blind off of eBay, I think, and I got a cheap bottle because I wasn't really sure what it would be like, and the sprayer was broken, which is why I got it so cheap. But because of that, I very rarely wear it, and I thought, I'll wear it just to remind myself and see if it's might be a contender for the second half. And but I just really hated it, and I spent the whole time thinking, why is this so popular? It's not very nice. It's like this weird kind of patchouli heavy powdery chocolate thing that I don't know. I felt like it really has no backbone at all, which is weird for a perfume with the patchouli in the base. You would think that would be quite a strong support, but I just felt it was a bit floppy and a bit undefined.
I think that's a very fair description. I think we talked about in the overrated episode, which was like going back fucking probably a couple of years now, but I genuinely feel that is like it's a mysteriously overrated perfume as far as I'm concerned. I mean, people who love it are fanatical about it, but I don't get it. I just don't get it, and I've tried repeatedly.
Yeah. I know Vivienne Westwood, Let's Rock, is a very similar perfume with their patchouli and the chocolate, but it's a bit less, it's a bit more on the nose with the patchouli and a bit more just rough and ready and in your face, and I think it's a better version of Lidge, basically. Was a really cheap version of Lidge, but I think these days Vivienne Westwood perfumes are quite expensive, so probably not anymore.
Ridiculous on eBay.
Yeah, but it used to be a cheap version of a kind of Lidge-like in that same ballpark, anyway. But yeah, so I think that's not really the case anymore. But yeah.
So James, have you? Remind me, what was your view on Lidge? Did you also feel it was an overrated?
In a sense, yes. I never understood why it was so popular and why, because I see it's quite artistic, it's quite weird, and it's definitely not crowd pleasing at all. I get that, like in a world where you've got like Coromandel or like, you know, like really classy sort of patchouli fragrances, that isn't really. It's almost a bit cheap and bitter and strange, but that's exactly why I do like it, and that's kind of why I think it probably stood out at the time amongst loads of other things. But I don't think it's I was always very surprised how popular it was, like very surprised. Like this is a weird perfume for people to be like, you know, especially the sort of YouTube kind of crowd and stuff like that. I was always like, why is this on like some bro list? Do you know what I mean? It's definitely not that kind of perfume at all. But yeah, I mean, I own it and I do like it, and when I wear it, but I get the impression that the patchouli accord, the patchouli material in there is not of the highest kind of quality, but it sort of cuts through everything, and I sort of appreciate its kind of offness, really. And yeah, it's not very dense or like thick, but it's there's something kind of haunting. It's got a weird haunting quality that I like, and the fact that it is so bizarre for something that's really, like, say, quite a mainstream popularist kind of like fragrance. Do you know what I mean? It's weird, yeah. But I completely get what Ben's saying about it, and certainly when you return back to it, especially if you got into it like when you were kind of first, you know, on your perfume journey, as Dan would say. As Dan would infer.
Invariably say.
Yeah.
As Dan says all the time, you can't fucking shut him up about perfume
He's
journeys
always on a bleeding
come.
journey, him. Fucking hell. So anyway, yeah, basically that's what I feel about it. So I totally get it. I still, occasionally when I do dig it out, I have kind of the opposite response. Like I sort of appreciate it for being a bit of an oddball, you know. But yeah, I get that it's not great, and especially if you're into patchouli, there's a lot more fancy, deeper patchoulis out there.
Cool. All right, Ben. Anything else beyond that one?
Not so much. I think
vetiver.
just a quick story, just because it's kind of funny, is that yesterday was like fucking freezing, right? It was like -3 degrees or something. So I thought, you know what this calls for? I broke out Oud Infinity, right, and I poured it all over myself. And then I was like, I've got to go to the guitar shop, local guitar shop, to take a bass. I just got took a guitar in, right, to get it like set up. And this guy came.
What bass was it? Sorry.
The 1981 Aria Pro 2 Cardinal, which is really nice, which I just got back off a mate that I lent about 15 years ago. I never expected to get it back, and I just got it back.
Cool. Sorry.
Took it down. Anyway, so yeah, I was in the shop, right, and I could smell Oud Infinite, and I was like, I feel brilliant, right? And then this guy came in the shop and stood next to him, was chatting at the counter. He was younger, like late teenage, right? Really.
I hate him already.
And he like stank of some cologne, like like some Boots thing, and I just thought. Yeah, I felt like a nice sort of like twinge of superiority.
Did he? I smell better than you, you young peasant.
Yes,
excellent.
Yeah, basically.
He didn't ask you whether you'd shat your pants, did he?
No one did, which I was quite surprised. Yeah, no questions about whether or not I'd soiled my trousers.
Impressive. Yeah,
but
it has
funnily
been
enough. Because it was so cold, I don't like it. It wore quite differently, and it was actually quite. It smelled all right. It smelled very tame. But then maybe that's just sometimes it feels like that, doesn't it? And sometimes perfumes do change day to day. But
yeah. I find sometimes that a perfume like that you can be sort of almost terrified of. Because it's so strong. But if you then like apply like 10, 12 sprays, suddenly it's quite bearable. I'm reminded of my mate Mikey, who always used to say that, if you ever feel like, you're on LSD and you're starting to freak out, the thing to do is to just have more. Just power through it. Just take more. And I feel like that may work with perfume. So I sprayed... So Narjesi, Spirit of Dubai Narjesi, is unbelievably strong rose perfume. And it's beautiful, but unbelievably strong. And it's like one of those 2 sprays fills a room kind of job. So I was like, fuck it, I am doing 10 sprays. And I think, actually, it was much more bearable with 10 sprays. I don't know why that should be. Maybe because it knocks me out.
You're then...
anosmic to it.
Yeah, and everyone else is like...
Yeah, that's all it did. It knocked me out. It knocked me out, and then it was more bearable.
You apply that perfume, and then if, it's not working out, you just drop loads of acid. I thought that was the remedy. Yeah, and also, can I just get my little joking about that? Yeah. Go on. It's what Beyonce says when she's not in the mood.
Don't get it.
No,
Jay-Z.
It's called Narjesi.
No, oh God, yeah, Narjesi.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next podcast will only have 3 members. I'm sure I've heard
James
that joke
is going to be out on tour with his stand-up routine.
Yeah, filling up fucking stadium with that. Right, there's this perfume. You have to know what the perfume's called, right? It's called Narjesi. Right. Okay, good. So you at the guitar shop. Nobody commented that you'd shit.
So I wore that, and that was nice.
That's quite impressive.
Went very well. But otherwise, just...
Yes. And it has been cold, and I wore today the original Widian 71, which is lovely, really lovely, and ideal sort of oody, rosy, sort of biting thing for the cold. Perfect, really. So, James, do you have your list ready?
I do.
Is it a good one? I mean, like, obviously they're all gold, but like when you look back at this list, do you think, yeah, I'm really happy with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple on there. I often do this and I'm like, yeah, I wore Antaeus again, or I wore this again, or things that people don't want to hear about, or I can just skip over and it kind of ruins it. But it's peppered with enough, new stuff and shit that you can go, ooh, what's this all about? That hopefully
shit that makes you go, ooh.
Yeah, it'll create some interest. And there was one day that I definitely did wear something, but I cannot for the life of me remember what it was. So unfortunately, it's a 13 just to fuck with you. But I haven't done that for ages, so I'm
sure you'll remember it as we go through this. It'll just come to you like in the nick of time. These things
It might do, and Anyway, we'll get to it. So I'll just say that today I actually tried. Just a little side note. I tried a new Penhaligon's with like an elephant head.
One of the
on it. Do you know about?
Portraits.
Is that new? Is that new? That one? Yeah, it's a new portrait apparently, or newish. Is it called Sam? No, Arthur. I don't know. Something. It's kind of purple juice and an elephant's head. And
Mr.
it smells
Thompson,
very much.
Obviously, Mr. Thompson
Of Iris. Mr. Thompson. That's it. Yeah.
Omniscient. Well, that's a good word. Omniscient.
It's pretty lovely. I mean, it smells of iris, really. I sprayed it in the shop and I said to the lady, I said, it's kind of leathery iris, isn't it? She was like, oh, yes, very good. And I was like, yeah. And then she rattled off a load of other like pink pepper and shit that was in it. And I was like, yeah, it kind of smells like, she's going, it's so unique, isn't it? So unique. And I was like, well, yeah, it kind of smells like this one and that one and whatever, and this old other Penhaligon's, and it also kind of smells like Dior Homme, the Parfum one. This is all just from one smell and strip today, so I might be completely wrong, but that's what I got from it. And I thought it was very nice, actually, to be honest.
Well, if it smells of Dior Homme Parfum, it will smell great, because that is a superb perfume.
Yeah, the actual stopper on the top of the bottle is huge. I mean, it's like those to the max. Like, it's a complete piss take because it's got massive Dumbo ears, huge tusks, and it's just like, fucking hell, that is like, some of those are quite impressive, and then some of them are a bit like, that's a bit shit, that one. But this is like, fucking go on. Like, it's a big, huge thing. So anyway, so there's that. But also I bought the sample set of those ones that you got a few weeks ago.
The
yeah,
and all that
because
lot.
they did that very impressive campaign on Tower Bridge, didn't they? Unless that was like some AI fantasy or something that like actually wasn't there, and it was fucking virtual reality or some shit. But it was like that is mental that they did that. That's crazy. Like, they had those giant bottles on the thing. That's cool. So obviously they've put a lot into it, and I've got to say, going on their website when you pointed them out, and I went on there, I was like, the branding for this is amazing. I mean, when is Penhaligon's branding not good? But it was like, wow. I mean, sometimes it isn't, but because I told you ages ago, do you remember I said, sorry, this is getting off the topic, but they sent me like an email saying, oh, hi, what do you think of this idea? And there was like stately homes or something. I remember. Yeah, and I sort of slagged it off. And then I was like, oh God, I hope they don't go downhill like that. But to be fair to them, if they're coming out with stuff like this, I really like the actual collection. And they had them all there with these like nose trumpet things. Like, they have them all in like glass kind of almost like boiling flasks, and all with the perfume in. And then they have these like things like funnels on them. And she goes, none of them are working. She's like, they send them out for this fancy display, and you're supposed to be able to smell through things, but they don't work. So yeah, you just spray the perfumes, but the bottles are really nice as well. And actually, I sprayed about 3 of them. I really quite like them. I was like, wow, these are pretty nice. So I'm looking forward to trying those. Anyway, just a bit of a side thing about Penhaligon's.
What I found with almost all of them is like the openings are amazing, but then they dry down to something quite different. But the openings are all amazing. On a couple of them, I was blown away by like how impressive they were. But they're just almost like, it's almost worse though, because then they fade down to something quite sort of droll and boring in comparison, and so you're directly comparing it to itself, and you're just, but one of them I thought was so nice that I would just spray it all day, just keep it with me and just keep spraying it on myself.
Dare I evoke the top loader concept that we discussed that time. Anyway, so my first perfume of the full 14.
Top loader.
Full 13.
No, sorry, we're going to interrupt you just to say that top loader. You know that track "Dancing in the Moonlight"? Is that was Top Loader, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yes,
I hate that song more than just about any other song
I know, that's
ever
why I
written.
used it for the Instagram advert, remember?
Oh, I didn't realise. Okay. I'd forgotten that we'd had that conversation. At least I'm consistent in my hatred for that fucking piece of shit song. Fuck that band.
Because you said I was never allowed to do another post ever again.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember now. and you're not. Fucking step away from the step away from the Instagram, Fliss.
Yeah.
Well, I remember doing one because I slowed it down massively, and it becomes the most weird thing ever. I slowed it down, and it's really sinister. I mean, everything's kind of
God, sing it.
Yeah, it was weird. It was mental. Anyway, so even just like the do 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 is like really creepy.
No.
Like slow.
It's like
Anyway, anyway, I wore a Memo African leather. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Because we'd just done the podcast, and it's always
great perfume.
It's always something that's pertinent. Great brand. It's always something like that is pertinent to the previous week's, podcast or whatever. So or something that I'm like, right, I need to start fresh here. I liked African leather, and it reminded me of a kind of clone that I have that I didn't even know. Do you remember we discussed all that? It's that kind of minerally, sort of sparkly, effervescent kind of thing. I actually really like it, and the fact that they clearly did that first, because I don't really know of any other vibes of that. So good on them for the African leather. Not particularly leathery, but leather's a broad church for me, so I can go, all right then, okay, it's leather. It's kind of ashy, sort of smoky, but with like citrusy, zingy. Yeah, good.
Someone messaged me saying that they thought all of the Memo leather ones were really leathery, and someone
put on the group that they think that they're really challenging. I was like,
well, far be it from me to disagree. It's all subjective in that, but I thought the leather in all of the Memo leather range was actually really very polite. They're not challenging leathers at all, really.
Maybe they're sort of challenging by proxy, so they get people to go, they're challenging, which then in turn challenges Fliss. So ipso facto, they're challenging.
That makes sense. Exactly. Ipso facto. Quadirat demonstrandum, mic drop, boom. Yeah, excellent.
Okay, so then I wore Anatoly Le Breton, which is a brand that I'm single-handedly just fucking sticking out there every week.
Shilling.
Well,
should we all go and buy them, James? I mean,
I would say no, except for this one, which is called Very on the Nose. Listen to this for a name. Perfumista. It's called Perfumista. And I was like, you better bring the fucking ruckus, right? If you're calling it Perfumista,
bring the ruckus.
Yeah, you need to really, come on, show us what you're all about with this. Because some of the other ones I'm a bit like, I get that they're very in with like perfume people. So people who are like dead into vintage and dead into things completely adore this brand for whatever reason. Okay. And I can kind of see it because there's quite a lot of pissy ones. There's quite a lot of like honey, sort of like weird ones. This one very much, right, has a kind of floral, powdery, traditional kind of opening, but with this kind of exotic ylang or something. So you go, ooh, Hasu no Hana. It's evoking all different kinds of like things and stuff and whatever. And then it becomes very apparent that it's a heavy rose fragrance, right? Which is fine because it's very, very good, right? And it's not too sweet. It's not too like jammy. It's got like fruity kind of elements in the top. But so that top part lasts for about an hour, let's say. And you go, oh, is this going to be a powdery chypre type thing? And then it just goes relentless with the rose, almost to the point of like, this is too much. Is it like a woody rose? It's got like patchouli and musk and like all that kind of stuff. And it's quite brutal, to be honest. And like, then you're like, no, this is a hugely rose dominant perfume. If I want to smell like that, almost to the point of like, it's that kind of Arabian almost, right? And I'm like, wow, this is like good. And it had like kind of elements of like, classic perfumery in the beginning, but then it just becomes this really relentless rose. But the longer it goes on, kind of the better it becomes. And you're like, oh my God, this is like, it's still evolving. Oh, if very little, over this kind of several hour period, right? And I'm talking, you get into like 14 hours of wearing it, right? And then all of a sudden, there's like this skanky, like dirty hair, almost like civety, but like kind of chorusy, that sort of Marbet kind of dirt underneath. And you're not even really, there must be a perception of it from the start. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't actually smell it overtly until later and went, oh my God, this is like actually quite skanky. But at that point, it's perfectly like balanced with the rose and everything like that. Because I did just evoke Marbet, which I know Fliss loves, and I do love it. I think it's a really good perfume. However, on me, I don't find it particularly skanky. The opening is, right, and I can smell that kind of chorusy thing, and then it goes very polite for me, like just personally, right? And this is the total opposite, because you don't even know that that's there particularly, other than this is a very good, floral rose sort of perfume. And then all of a sudden, like I say, after about 14 hours, right, you're like, wow, the skin scent on this is skanky as anything. And I really enjoyed it. And I thought for the whole experience of what that perfume has delivered, it lives up to the name Perfumista. So I would say if you...
Do I need to try
I would say if you're going to try any of those, right, to say that for like large periods of it, for like 12 hours, it's quite an unimpressive, I've smelled this before kind of rose, even though it's hugely big and, whatever. To have that kind of be bookended by that stuff makes it really good. And in actual fact, I did enjoy the roseness of it, because it's not too sweet, it's not too anything. It's very just well done perfume. So I can't fault it. And I actually ended up loving it, and really it kind of, from being a bit like, maybe a bit lackluster, as people have probably been able to tell, that, are you falling out of love with perfume, James, and stuff? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just like, I've had a bit of a low-key few like months /
No, I'm not. Fuck you.
/ years. And then stuff like this comes along and I'm like, yes. And it's tiny, like a hair's breadth between something being shit and good. And I suppose that's like anything, isn't it? Like, and it's that, it's where we make those distinctions in it. So I thought it was very good. The next day I wore Oddity, which is another brand that I've been bigging up a lot. And we looked at those the other day. Oddity Naked Dance, the perfume is called Naked Dance.
Nice.
And it's a very, very, I loved it, right? But it's not for everyone. I believe all these perfumes are made by Mark Buxton, who is kind of like this modern perfumer who, makes all these kind of weird and wonderful sort of things. Very complex, but also kind of like screechy with Ambroxan and, things that you just go, nah, he's not doing like classic stuff, but I believe he's innovating, right? And this Naked Dance is just a huge sandalwood perfume. So masses of sandalwood and musk. I believe the musks in it kind of evoke that sort of pink, like fluffiness of like Donna Karan, Cashmere, or like Fuel for Men. These kind of things that we talked about. That sort of thing.
I've never tried Cashmere. I've seen
You'd
it.
like it.
Like that was exactly the question I was going to ask.
It looks like a mouse.
Yeah, well, if it's discontinued. Yeah.
Like
if it's discontinued, I obviously have to now lust after it. So that's kind of how the magic works.
I think you would like it. I thought it was a very good perfume at the time.
You lust after it, and then after you've kept it for a month and you want to sell it, you let me know.
Okay.
Who turned you onto it, Dan? Who turned you onto it?
Yeah.
Fucking let me. Or buy two, and then if you get sick of them,
just buy all of them, and that is basically how a lot of people I know enable themselves to get nice stuff at a discount. Is what they do is they set me up to buy it, saying, "Oh, you'll love this, Dan," and then I'll sell it for like a £15 loss.
Yeah,
so
Dan the wake boat.
£50 cheaper.
Let's just get in his wake. Get all these fine perfumes.
Dan the idiot.
So yeah, Naked Dance. I was really, for something that's quite flat and pastel and sort of, that I absolutely loved it. And it wasn't like, oh, it's a pure overdose of like Jarvanol, there's all that kind of stuff in there. It's like sandalwood accord. It even started to evoke the good bits of Palo Santo. That material that is like sickly, and so it's interesting to me. I found it quite interesting, but it's that old trope of put loads of musks in something which even the cheapest perfumes can have, and I'll just go, oh yeah, it's nice. So I am quite a gurgling baby when it comes to musky perfumes. But anyway, I loved that. And I actually thought it was artistic enough. And it kind of, a naked dance, I'm like, yeah, okay, there's a dance going on. It's kind of maybe on a, like, sandy beach with a, like, campfire or something, you know, dancing around with your willy out. Yeah, so...
what an image.
As you do. Then I wore Zegna Intenso, which they've actually changed the bottle. It used to have like little like slats across it as if like it was blind, and I believe the inspiration was like the sun coming through like blinds in the afternoon, and you know, Venetian fucking blinds or something, I don't know. And anyway, they've changed the bottle now to something more boring, but I've got the original bottle with the little lines on it. And anyway, it was made by Daniela Roche-Andriere, who does all the Prada stuff usually, and it's very much like, kind of like Armani Code, which maybe is a kind of boring sort of perfume, but I quite like it. It's got a bit of warmth in it, and it's sort of, got like fresh sort of Italian-y, lemony top note, and then like into creamy, is it irisy? I don't know, sort of meh, kind of woods, but I still like it a lot. But yeah, it's all right. Then I wore Valentino Uomo, keeping on the designer Italian tip, which was a perfume that I bought when it came out, and like kind of was looking forward to it. And I didn't really get what I like about it, again, we're talking about little tiny tweaks, right? And a lot of people went, oh, it's just Dior Homme. It's just a rip-off of Dior Homme with a little bit more of a nutty thing. But that nuttiness just makes it a totally different perfume for me. And if you then try to just compare it back to that, you go, well, actually, there's probably quite a considerable amount of change to the whole vibe because of that. And I think it kind of started that sort of nutty, maybe slightly coffee-inflected, like gourmand iris kind of thing, or reimagined it for the like 2015 or whenever that came out. Which and the bottle is beautiful. It's like a brandy decanter or something.
It's the sort of knobbly, looking bottle.
That's right.
Knobbly
glass thing.
The only Valentino I have is a Valentino V.
Oh yeah.
Which is really good, but I'd never wear it. I do need. In fact, I have no idea where. It's just occurs to me I have no idea where it is. So I shall now spend most of tomorrow looking for that.
Well, Valentino were one of those that weren't really on the scene probably since that V one, because the one was at like mid 2000s or something. I don't know. It's quite an old one, isn't it? And then all of a sudden they kind of came out with this, and I thought it was very good. I don't know who made it, but you know, it's a good perfume. Then anyway, I wore Absolute Aventus the next day because we talked about it briefly in the last one. I said that I tried it, and I kind of gave a thing saying I don't think, and I'm glad it didn't, because I think you'd said, Dan, that it kind of reminded you of like Cedrat Boisy or Cedrat Boise or whatever. And I was like, I don't. Thankfully, it doesn't, because I hate that perfume. Do you think?
I'm not sure I said that.
Okay. Or somebody
said
said
more like. I thought it was more like Sauvage Elixir, actually, with that sort of. I guess it's a sort of licoricey sort of something going on that gives it a little bit of roughness underneath. Sure. I mean, it's nice. It's nice. It's not. I didn't think it was mind blowing. I mean, I assume your mind wasn't blown either.
No, it's definitely not. It's not even as good as the original Creed Aventus for me.
No.
It's kind of like, I mean, I know what they were trying to do, and the fact that Creed Aventus fans are absolutely all over it, going, it's the best thing, sliced bread. Well, clearly it was made for them, and if they want to think that, I'll just kind of step away from them and leave them to it. Then I wore Mizoni Uomo, which I did speak about the other week, which is a kind of herbal 80s men's vintage thing that I just had the sample lying around, so I wore it again. Very good. I'm actually impressed that the top notes are quite intact for an old early 80s, mid 80s bottle, whatever it is. Then I wore another oddity, Resonant, right? Resonant, I actually think creatively is, again, so they've done a trio of perfumes, and don't forget, I liked the first one, which was called
Dead Air.
Forget. It was called something. Dead Air, that was it. Well remembered. Yeah. Dead Air, which I liked. And then obviously I liked that kind of sandalwood, musky one, Naked Dance, which I just said. And Resonant was actually really interesting as well. Kind of shock of sort of green. So yeah, metallic notes. You ain't joking. Oh, actually, weirdly, it doesn't mention them, but it's probably one of the most aldehydic things ever, and you ain't going to be on board. Certainly, Ben, really, you don't like aldehydes, do you? This is like maximum, like, you know how sort of abrasive those individual materials were to smell. Some of them were like, fuck, this is like, it's like that. Like, it's really aldehydic in the opening and for like quite a long time after that. And then, yeah, gingery Gaiac wood, I'd say it's kind of like a, yeah, it's weird. And yeah, sharp with like yuzu and stuff. Oh, what are they saying? It's like Platinum Egoist. Maybe the metallicness, yeah. I'd recommend trying it because I thought it was a bit of a trip. Yeah. So yeah, gingery, citrus, I can see that. Anyway, yeah, there was. I'm impressed with that brand Odyssey. I'll just say
bottles
it.
Really
go out and buy them.
Go out and buy them. For which you are presumably receiving substantial financial recompense.
Well, this is it. I didn't know of the brand. I bought the samples, by the way, for anyone who's fucking pissed off about that. And I really, like I say, if I say go and buy something, I don't mean, and anybody that listens to this podcast knows that
it's not a literal instruction.
No, exactly. The go and buy it if you like it is implied, right? If you like it, it doesn't need to be said because it's kind of like just there. And in actual fact, even if I did ever say go and buy something, it's probably because I like the people involved, which was what the reason why I said that other thing the other week, because it was simply to be kind of supportive. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but anyway.
Is it worth just unpacking that a little for our listeners? Because I don't think we ever actually discussed it.
If you want to. So, I don't know, someone was giving me grief online about the fact that I'd said, bougies are releasing some eau de parfums or whatever, and, you know, go out and buy them. Because I tried the candles and the candles were really good. And as far as I know, they're the same fragrances or they're going to be similar. And I kind of know sort of, you know, I'm acquainted with Pia and Nick from the brand. And they never sent me anything. They probably wouldn't, and I wouldn't expect anything. And I was merely being supportive of a British brand that I think is good. Certainly for candle. I mean, I'm not a candle person. I don't fucking really like candles, but I bought them and I was like, wow, for candles, like they're amazing. Imagine they were perfumes. Well, now they are perfumes, and I happen to say go out and buy them, because I would say that about Amanda Beale's perfumes, or I would say go and buy stuff from Saint Solier, because, you know, it's supporting a small brand from the UK with no incentive to do so whatsoever, financial or otherwise. Just the fact that, you know, I would say that. And again, I'm not saying mindlessly go out and, you know, buy stuff because I say so, because you clearly have more autonomy, and, you know, I'm not here to, there's not even a shill discussion, because the kind of people who listen to this podcast shouldn't be susceptible to that shit. That's what I think.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think the person who had been in touch to accuse you of being a shill had said, like, normally it's great, but that was a clumsy shill for the brand. Is your free bottle on the way or something? It's like, really, do you honestly think any one of us would fucking honestly, would we really fucking talk shit to get a free bottle of perfume? I mean, how fucking desperate. And it just shows the desperation of the person, observing that and making that comment, that they would think that.
Yeah,
I think it's there's an absurdity.
We've buried the hatchet now. Oh,
really?
I mean, he was like, oh no, I love the show and stuff. But I'm
not interested. I just think, if you chat shit, fuck off. That's.
I thought you were going to say chat shit, get banged. Then
chat shit, get. Well, I was going to say chat shit, get banged, but I mean, who the fuck am I? Banging? That sounds wrong. I mean, firstly, I would never advocate violence anyway, because I'm not a violent person. And so, yeah, just chat shit, fuck off, I think is probably more my speed than chat shit, get banged.
I think there is something, and I think we've talking about this at another time. Maybe this episode isn't the time for it, but there is something around the fact that the industry is so full of people that do, and particularly in terms of Instagram or a lot of podcasts or whatever, the industry is absolutely dripping with people who are advertising for brands, not for free, but for bottles of perfume. It's an easy assumption to make, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I do that in a fashion, and so in the sense that I get sent lots of free stuff and I take pictures of it and I describe it. But I would never tell anyone to go and buy something, unless it was my brand. Which even then, that's fucking I find it.
You don't use the podcast to advertise your brand at all.
No, not at all.
Mention your brand.
I find it quite.
Hold your head in your hands and.
Yeah, I find it all quite icky. But I just think hopefully anyone who reads any of the fucking captions I ever write will know that I'm being pretty fucking honest. I mean, I've got a review coming up this week for a couple of Kyalis that I got sent, which basically are like the girliest, most youthful sort of perfumes ever. And I would not dream of wearing them. I have no idea why they sent them to me. And my review will basically say that. There is. I've not tried it. But this one's there's an apple one and a lychee one. I mean, but the good news is my daughters came in and just went, "Oh, that smells great. Can I have one?" And they argued between them about who would get which one, and they're gone. That's it.
Clearly,
I would never dream of wearing those.
They, obviously,
Well,
they do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Kylie. Hey, we've just created these lovely, sweet, sort of feminine, juvenile perfumes. I know, let's send them to the nearly 50-something fat bastard in the north of England.
All right, man. Hench is
hench. All right, we'll send them to the hench boy. But yeah, it just seems like But
I constantly tell people to go and buy things, but everything that I tell them to go and buy is discontinued and has been for quite some time. Yeah. So it's just eBay.
Anyway,
yeah, go buy this on eBay. Sorry, we are off track.
Sorry,
You're
I'll
quite
finish quickly.
Yeah, we had the pre-cum. Now it's the hard finish.
Oh
God.
Sorry, Fliss, but you made me say.
I wore Chanel Anteus. We know I always stick that in there. I loved wearing it.
Yes.
I sprayed it with,
great abandon.
Yes, very good. Then I wore L'Occitane Eau de Beau because it's about that time of year to wear Eau de Beau.
Isn't it? It's Christmassy. So what a lovely Christmassy perfume.
Great. Just a wonderful, almost like medieval amber accord. It kind of smells like, I always think it reminds me of mead. I don't know why, because it's not honeyed at all. Yeah. I just think of like mead. And like, it's just,
jousting.
It's great. It's great. I love that perfume. It's really good.
I think I think they make some really good perfumes. I've always been surprised when I've gone in those shops, because they're always in like, these kind of retail parks or whatever, where you sort of go in and you just, oh, right, well, I'll go and sniff perfumes here, such as they are, whilst Her Majesty goes and figures out how to, spend money for us. And I'm always quite actually impressed. I think they tend to smell good. They nicely packaged. They have great sort of performance. I don't know. I think they're a really solid brand. I think
some of the stuff that they've discontinued now go for a very large amount on eBay.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, there's one called Le Paris or Di Paris, which is a very incensey thing, and there's one called L'Ambre as well. And both of them will go for 200 quid for 100 ml or even more. When you consider how much you can buy them when they're not being discontinued, the markup on them is amazing. But I think there's a number of those kind of French step up from pharmacy brands that really are underrated. Yves Rocher is another one. I was wearing an Yves Rocher recently, and they used to do fantastic perfumes. But maybe that's just a French for me.
Anyway, then I wore Atelier Mattieri Santal Blonde, which is kind of a really, I was saying about overdoses of Jarvinol. I think that has a huge overdose of Jarvinol. And it's a very nice modern sort of bits kind of spicy sort of sandalwood in the opening, and then it has a tiny little bit of that like green sort of papyrus horribleness of Santal 33, but it never quite fully commits to that, that sort of hipstery, every sandalwood kind of smells like that. And it just teeters on that and between like a sweet musky sort of sandalwood. So it has a little nod to that, and it's just enough not to peck me head. So yeah, I do like it, and I think they're a quality brand, by the way. They're not really doing anything like particularly setting the world alight, but the packaging's nice, the brand is consistent and clear, and some of the stuff that they're doing is I liked everything from that brand, really. There's nothing that's shit. Then the Friday I can't remember, and I still can't remember, and it's a shame, but
No.
Then
when it does come back to you, write it down, and then next week we'll make it a full 15, just to like fucking redress cosmic balance.
Cool. Then I wore Chypre Palatine yesterday because I went to.
You're a gangster.
No, listen to this. No, far from it. I went to. We've been doing a come dine with me like nights between like the kids, like the parents from the school, like the kind of new mates. And so we've got like four of us, four like couples doing come dine with me nights, and we did ours first. And me and Jenny nearly got a fucking divorce. I mean, we're not even married, but we had a fucking massive fallout because
fuck it, we get divorced anyway.
I made about like 14 different sauces, and like we went proper fucking Michelin star with that shit, and it was outrageous. And most people came around and was like, "This is just an overload of things," and they were like, "Ours is going to be shit. We're just going to do a stew." And all this, and we were like, "We've set the bar really fucking high here." And we had like, our night was kind of like sport themed, and we did fucking, like played fucking ping pong and shit. But last night's was a very fabulous gay couple's house, and they were like, "Right, it's tarts and vicars," and Jenny was like, "Right, I'm going as the vicar Dibley." So I was like, right, so that means I'm the tart then, okay? So I was the tart, and Jenny was the vicar of Dibley. So I had, the tits, the fucking makeup, the full 9 yards, suspenders, all that shit.
Oh my God, this is better than Hagrid.
Well, I nearly wore the Hagrid wig, actually, but then I was like, James going, no, that's an old tart.
Can I see this?
Maybe, I don't know. There might be some pictures somewhere. I was kind of just sort of lingering in the back. Anyway, and I wore kimono, which is like actually mine. Anyway, so I was kind of in drag last night, so that was fun. And I wore Chypre Palatine because I thought, what does a
I mean, that's high class tart, though, isn't it?
How was the food?
The
food was good.
Tart.
It was lamb and it was this kind of weird, like lamb and feta and things. And he made his own bread and made his own butter, like churned his own butter. And
what?
Wow.
Oh, fuck that. That would just make me feel so inadequate. I'd be like...
This is why I don't make friends.
Yeah.
Because this sort of shit ensues is just no.
Here is some microwave beans and a slice of toast.
Well,
you crack on, mate.
The setting of the table was beautiful. Everything. It was really good. A couple of the things, you have to nitpick, don't you, about the little things being overcooked and stuff. But generally speaking, it was really good. And then they made like some kind of like cheesecake with like, I'd never had, they said it was like mini pints of Guinness. And I was like, not everyone likes Guinness. What are you putting Guinness with the fucking afters for? And it wasn't. It was one of those like B52s, but with Tia Maria or Kahlua or, like where you make a little pint of Guinness with Baileys on the top. Whatever those are.
Yeah.
And so, it was really nice. It was like white chocolate fucking something, but it was really good. And I wore Chypre Palatine because I was like, what does a classy tart wear? And who doesn't love Chypre Palatine?
Thank you, I do. Yes, it's my favourite perfume.
Superb perfume, isn't it? Just
so pleased you've reviewed it like that.
Every time I wear that perfume, I'm just like, this is it. Like, it's so good. It's so good.
This is as good as perfumery gets.
It really is. And then today, because I was doing... So obviously got quite hammered last night, as, tarts tend to. And got home quite late and was pretty gone. So I was pretty rough this morning, but I had to do a Santa dash. So then I had to, whip me togs off, wipe me makeup off and put a Santa suit on and then go running through the town with like hundreds of people.
Oh, I remember you put that on your story last year.
Yeah, I've done it. So I do it every year this year. But... So I had to do that, and it's only like a couple of miles, but it's like they changed the route this year, so it was all like pretty much all uphill. So like fucking sweating my bollocks off in a Santa suit. So anyway, so I wore Santa Maria, get it? Santa Maria Novella Melograno, which we all love. Just a classy powdery perfume.
Ooh, I've got something to show you. I spent £60, which is ridiculous when I think about it. But I got 2 Santa Maria Novella Melograno soap refills. They were 30 quid each. I was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to get 2 if I'm paying for the fucking shipping and stuff. It is so strong. I mean... I'll be washing my hands with just a tiny little bit of soap, but it smells fucking amazing. What a great perfume.
Friend of the show, Jasper Drack, put on his story recently one of their big actual bars of soap, which are like £18, but they're like a brick.
So that's what
so smooth.
That's what prompted me to go and buy it because. Dave had said, we should buy some. So out of our joint business account, anything we buy for R&D purposes is, of course, tax deductible. So it's like, we should buy some soaps for R&D purposes, which is exactly why a bunch of soaps were purchased. So I got like 4 different soap bars and then some soap liquid. And they all smell amazing. It's such a cool brand, but it's a bit like a sort of an Italian L'Occitane, isn't it? Sort of, same sort of vibe. But
I think it's quite under the radar. But if you know brand.
It's one of those. They always have boutiques in big cities, don't they? And like you don't know, like you don't really notice them, and then you go, oh, actually, they've got like one of those. I totally, the L'Occitane thing, as soon as you like said, I thought, that because they're quite generous with the samples. So when I bought Melograno, they put in loads of those little sachets of that soap and stuff, which was, really cool. And some other ones to try. So I have tried that soap and it is very strong. I just think they're great, that brand, like always up. And to have other products, because I'm not really interested in other products particularly, but I do like it when they have other products and they're clearly quality in their field that I don't really know much about, but
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't think I will be using their products by default in the house, though. I just thought I'd get some nice soap in for Christmas so that the house was smelling, all sorts of lovely. But yeah, £30 a pop, and it's only fucking 250 ml as well. I mean, it's basically you can get considerably cheaper perfumes per mil than their fucking liquid soap, which is ridiculous. Okay,
That's
good.
it, yeah.
Is that the entirety of your 13 this week? Okay, well, it'll have to be 15 to assuage my anxiety next time. Cool, right. It's... I don't know, we've been at this for quite a while. So, should we take a break, grab a cup of tea, and then we are going to get into the episode that everybody has been asking for. We get asked to do this more frequently than any other episode. Can't tell you what it is. Stick with us. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Les Oderants. This week we are doing a house cup. We've not done one for, a bloody long time, I believe is the technical term. And we had been asked multiple times, like at least once by someone. But no, we've had multiple requests.
And that someone was Fliss.
And that someone was Fliss, yeah. Fliss basically asked us once to do House Cup for Guerlain, which I think is a brilliant idea. And I think probably the reason we haven't done it previously is it's a little bit intimidating, right? I mean, how do you even eat this fucking whale? I mean, Guerlain, basically, you fuckers have all got Google, right? So I don't really need to tell you a whole bunch about it, but it was established in 1828. And yeah, I mean, they've got how many fucking perfumes on Fragrantica? 64,000, I think. So picking a winner is going to be all but impossible. I mean, Fliss, you strike me as someone who probably has quite a few Guerlain perfumes in your collection. I mean, could you hazard a guess at how many?
It depends if you count flankers or not.
Yeah, count them all.
Or in that case, I mean, a lot. But Jicky, Après Londe, Le Bleu, which I can never say correctly. Le Bleu, Le Bleu, Le Bleu, Bleu.
Le Bleu, Le Bleu, Bleu.
Mitsuko, Shalimar, obviously. And then I've got Chamard, Nehema now, got a tiny bit of Derby, Champs-Élysées, Lanstin and Solans. Yeah, I have a lot.
Many.
I have many. And then various flankers of various ones of those as well. I have to say that I didn't always have them in my collection, but it's relatively recent, and I think a lot of
you
those
weren't
ones...
born with them. Are you telling me you weren't born with a collection?
Wouldn't that be
of Guerlain?
amazing?
This is news to me, Fliss. I'm surprised.
But I think even when I was beginning to collect,
I think that's what happens in France, though, doesn't it? Like, you're born and they present you with like a gift basket of Guerlain.
Well, apparently it's a relatively popular thing is for young girls and their mums when the girls reach a certain age. I don't know if there is an age or it's just like conferred upon you that by elder women in your family that now would be the time to go and get your first perfume, and you go to the Guerlain shop, and you know that.
That's why they made that one recently, didn't they? They made that. I'd say recently. It's probably going back a few years now, but they did. Was it like a Shalimar? And the word for it I can't remember, but it's like your first Shalimar for like a young girl. The
souffle is very. I would say
I can't remember which one it wasn't the souffle one, but it was. It will come to me later, but it was basically like the idea behind it was this would be the perfume
you would start out with
that would first introduce you to the Guerlain brand for a young girl.
There's a really old BBC documentary that follows a couple of perfume houses over a number of months or the course of a year. And the Guerlain one, I think they're beginning to release Insolence.
Parfum Initial.
Oh, yeah, the initial.
That was it.
But they release Insolence. And one of the thinkings behind that was this would make an excellent starter Guerlain for the younger generation. So I never really got into them, or I didn't get into them, I would say, until the last maybe even 8 years, if I'm honest. I spent a lot of time not completely understanding them or potentially dismissing them because they're a bit expensive. I just didn't feel that they were me a lot of the time. But then once I realised that I was utterly wrong, it kind of snowballed. And now I can't get away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I did I did a sort of drunken Facebook post a couple of weeks ago, which was like, here are the best 6 perfumes in the known world today, which is obviously complete fucking gibberish. It was just like the things I could think of after I was half cut. But Mariam, whom...
whose taste is exquisite.
Indeed, she looked at the list and she said, "Well, at least there's a Guerlain on there."
Yeah.
So, which I think is fair. I mean, the rest were just I can't even
slightly damning. I love that. At least there's a Guerlain, darling.
Yes, indeed. And I think
you aren't completely dead to me.
Well, Dan Joy of the Wafts from the Loft, I'm sure, I don't know whether it was his expression or whether he kind of borrowed it from someone else, but he said words to the effect of, there's 3 categories of perfume. There's designer, there's niche, and there's Guerlain.
Yeah.
And I rather like that, because I think they are, as a sort of category, they're just so classy. I think they're great. But they almost stand as an entire category on their own.
That's true. I think it's a hangover from a discussion of whether when people used to do things in the forum on like base notes and Fragrantica and whatever, they used to do like best, niche or designer perfume, you know what I mean, like lists and shit like that, but like a post where people discuss it, and a lot of the time people would end up falling out about including Guerlain on either of those, and quite rightly to say that their own category is, so it may be something to do with that, but it's a long suffering discussion or whatever of what are they really? Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? And if ever we were to talk about a house, and probably the house, because they're not a fashion house, they don't do anything else. Well, I know they've got lots of other products and makeup and shit like that, but like they are the perfume house, and legitimately called a house. So just to say that, this is the house cup of,
it's the house of all houses. Without looking, have a guess at how many Guerlain perfumes there are on Fragrantica.
Hundreds.
I want to say 357.
357. James. Ben, take a guess.
261.
261. Fliss.
243.
243. You are all woefully wrong. James is the closest, but to be honest, he's out by a fucking country mile. It is 509.
Wow.
509. And that's just the ones that are on Fragrantica. I'm quite certain Fragrantica is incomplete, as it tends to be for so many things.
Wow.
I know, it's fucking mental, isn't it?
I mean, of course it's that many. If you think about all of the flankers with Shalimar, all of the flankers in Mon Guerlain.
There's about 400 Shalimar flankers.
It's 509, all Shalimar flankers.
And also like the Mouget that they bring out every year. I mean, of course, it's a huge catalogue of utter gorgeousness.
It is mad. It is mad fun. Picking one seems to be almost impossible. I mean, I don't know. I don't. It would be a strange thing if you could honestly claim to have tried even 30% of all of them. So us sort of arbitrarily declaring, something the best seems a little bit kind of difficult to cope with. But nevertheless, we shall endeavour, because I think we've obviously. Actually, I haven't asked. I've asked you, Fliss, but I haven't asked James and Ben this question. How many-ish? I mean, you don't need to say it precisely, but how many-ish Guerlain perfumes do you think you own?
Easy. I just 6. I only own 6.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah, I don't own
Which
that
are the 6
many.
you own?
L'Homme Cologne, L'Homme normal, Shalimar, just the normal EDT, and then Lidge, Samsara, and Abbey Rouge.
Oh, nice.
Rouge.
I was trying to think. I rarely wear it. It's that square
I like
one.
that one.
The oblongy one.
I want to say about 10, 12. I have had a few vintage ones that I've sold. So probably I've had maybe 15, 20 max at any one time, but I've sold quite a few because, like Samsara, for example, but they're all things that I'm kind of going, do I really want them now or whatever? I don't know. I just sort of got rid of some stuff. But yeah, no, I have, I think about 10 or 12 maybe.
How about you, Dan?
Well, it's I've got quite a few actually. Weirdly,
You've got all the fancy wooden ones.
So I don't have all of them. Annoyingly, I'm missing one. So I've got 5 of those Parisian ones. I've got obviously, which includes the modern Derby. I've got a vintage Derby.
Your half litre.
I've got the half-litre bottle, which is empty, regrettably. But I do have a small 50 ml of the vintage one. I have a Mitsuko.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I have? So I also have one that I got recently, which is just called Le 68. Which is really, really
sounds good.
Yeah, it is,
and the bottle looks great. As well,
does, doesn't it?
Engraving on the back.
Yeah, it's lovely. I really, really like that. It's
is the engraving of their shop? Is that their Paris boutique?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But I think it is. It's a lovely perfume. It's Immortelle mainly, which is a sort of strange note for me because I often find that I can't sort of smell it. But I picked this up basically for a decent price from a. Well, so the reason it's a slightly difficult question to answer how many Guerlains I've got is I ended up buying a bit of a Guerlain collection from someone. So I now have a bunch, like about 15, 20 Guerlains that I'm just not remotely interested in, which are things a lot of the Aqua Allegoria type range, whatever that's called, which look pretty but are ultimately for me a bit like
they're not your thing.
No, they're very bland. But the one that I really wanted from the collection and the reason that I got into it, where there was 2, there was the Le 68, and then there's one called Baiser Russie, I think it is, which is actually I didn't like so much. So that one's actually on the chopping block. But yeah, of the ones that I'm keeping. It is basically the 5 Parisians, the Derby, Mitsuko, and the Le 68. And I feel like there may be 1 or 2 others noodling around somewhere in the back of the cupboard. But probably less than 10. So accounting for what less than 2% of the entire Guerlain catalogue, I would say. So even though between us, we've probably, and my instinct is there's not that much overlap in terms of our collections as well. So even if you sort of charitably said between us we own 50, you're still only sort of pushing 10% of the total number. So for us to declare that we have chosen the greatest, is going to sound a little bit surreal. However, and this is where my argument lies. I think I can do that because I'm going to go first because I'm just going to lay it out there, right? I think the greatest Guerlain ever is, unsurprisingly, I'm going to say it's Derby, and I think I can say that not because I've tried all the others and I've sort of ruled them all out, but because I've tried Derby and there was like a sort of an almost religious experience where, the top of my head kind of went all tingly, where my eyes kind of started vibrating in their sockets, and where I just sort of went, yeah, this is it. I've found it. And I was sort of reminded this. I read once on one of the perfume groups ages ago about a guy who'd had a conversation with someone who was like he was a watch enthusiast, collected watches, hundreds of watches, and said, "Oh yeah, I know. I've tried loads of perfumes, thousands of perfumes. I just found the one. I I wanted." And in his case, it was Terre d'Hermès. I mean, it's a fucking good perfume. Why not? But I mean, imagine being that confident that you found the one. Well, I feel that confident that Derby is, the best Guerlain. I don't need, I'll keep trying them, but I'm highly confident that it doesn't matter how many Guerlain I try, I will not find a better expression of a sort of masculine leather, whatever it is, tobacco-y sort of greatness. It to me, it is perfection. And today, or this evening, rather, because I wore something else during the day, but this evening I decided to wear I think it's 2011 Derby re-release, which is still a fucking brilliant perfume. It's not as good as the original, but fuck me, it is good. And it's nice just to spray something like that and be reminded about just how visceral a reaction to a perfume can be. I smell that and I just think, yeah, this is why I'm into perfume. It's fucking amazing.
In addition,
there is my case.
Well, I was just going to ask some questions because I think in addition to that visceral reaction, which is obviously, I mean, your face you're animated, you've got like a little smile, it's you're obviously in love with it. But what is it? Can you pinpoint, apart from that initial visceral thing, the journey of it that you particularly like, or the smell story, or was it just so visceral that it's that's it now?
No, I don't. I don't know. I guess I'm not terribly analytical with a lot of perfumes. It's really just about the way they make me feel, and how do they smell? Can I describe the smell? But how do they make me feel? And Derby makes okay, so little personal insight, right? I spend, I reckon, about 70% of my waking hours feeling like I'm having a panic attack. And it's not that I am having a panic attack, but I feel often as though like something is not right, and that something's about to go wrong for me. And perfumes tend to alleviate that in the sense that, there's something that I can focus on. They take my focus away from, me thinking about my heart rate and stuff, and they, good perfumes will just encapsulate, that's the wrong word, but they will almost enrapture me and drag my thoughts somewhere else entirely. And Derby does that in the most exquisite way. I spray it and it makes me feel relaxed and calm and confident, and not like I don't have a problem with confidence or anything.
No.
You know that, right? But it just makes me, I don't know. It's difficult to put it into words, but it sort of makes me feel like, hey, no, fuck it. Everything's actually going to be all right, Beauty exists. It's okay. There is brilliant stuff out there, and you can have it. You can have beautiful things. It's okay. You don't need to feel bad about it.
It comes in this bottle and you can buy it off eBay.
Yeah, exactly. You can buy it. Go out and buy it now. And you can still pick these up. I mean, the prices do seem to be going up. There's one currently on eBay for like 350 quid. And then I saw someone trying to pump one on eBay for like 800 quid earlier this month. So the prices are definitely going up, but it's not like... It's not like it's so impossible to get hold of that, that I worry that if I use this up, I'll never be able to find another, which I do sort of feel a little bit with the vintage one, which is why I tend to wear the newer one rather than the vintage one. But they both have that same sort of calming, meditative effect on me, and I just think they're brilliant. They do everything that a good perfume should do. Does that?
Yeah.
I mean, does that sound like a poncy old bollocks, or does it sound like it actually makes sense? I mean, both those things can be true, actually.
It
can be poncy old bollocks and make sense.
It's sort of. I feel like I don't really want to argue with you now, so we could just say you've won and.
No, it was a good insight into your sort of. Psyche and the sharing of what you think is special about that perfume, which is kind of still sort of none the wiser, but also I'm kind of like I know a bit more kind of about Dan, which is sort of arguably more important than the perfume. So
when someone has a visceral reaction to that about a perfume or just any piece of art, it can be music, it could be a painting, or it can be a book that has moved them. You can't argue with that. It's just there is no right or wrong, and anybody who would turn around and now go, you're wrong, it's a bit of a cunt, because you've just laid out yourself. So do you know what I mean? Could you have that reaction to, I don't know, Lynx Africa? I don't know. I mean, there's a different thing, isn't there?
That'd be like kicking a puppy, though. Do you know what I mean? I think that a bit too harsh.
You can have emotional memories about those, so that those things. I mean, in theory, of course you can. What am I saying? Of course you can have that emotional reaction about anything you want. Who are we to say? It'd be a bit weird if it was about Lynx Africa, though. I mean, I'd have to nod and smile.
Yeah, well, that's.
It would be very, very disturbing, because Lynx Africa reminds me of like the boys' changing rooms at school after PE, and the anxiety of getting in the showers.
Yeah, not fun. Not fun. Okay, so we've all agreed that I win then. Okay, which is
we're fighting for runner-up now.
Well, maybe, I guess.
So, I mean, if everyone's afraid to like sort of debate Dan on his Derby, should I go next? Because I know that I've already lost. Like, I sort of came into this like knowing that I've already lost, so I can give you some like ammunition to rail on when you have your choices. But basically, like going into this, I knew I had a pretty good idea what at least Dan and Fliss were going to pick, and I don't think there's much arguing with either. So I was like, the only one that I can think of that maybe can sit with them was Samsara. But ultimately, it's not my favourite. So I was like, do I vote for do I go in with Samsara? And because I know it can sort of, I feel like it can sit up there and argue that point? Or do I just be a bit more real and just go with the one that I wear the most? And I thought, I'm just going to do that, even though it's a tragic loss. So I picked, already mentioned it today once, L'Homme Ideal cologne, which is a discontinued flanker of L'Homme Ideal. And I don't know if it was particularly popular. I mean, obviously not that much because they discontinued it. But here's my argument, right? Here's why I think it's great. And there's a certain element of like digging real deep here and trying real hard, right? But I just really love it. It's very easy to wear, but it does two things I think that are quite clever. And I actually think we'll come, like maybe go more onto the Ideal line in general, which I think is kind of overly critiqued sometimes. But Ideal cologne, the reason I pick it and the reason I love it is that it's enough Guerlain, like it's got elements of Guerlain, that classy, vanilla-y kind of almond vibe that, you know, like is popular. But it's also strikingly modern for Guerlain. I think it's kind of a departure. That whole Ideal line, I feel, is not a departure, but it's really modern. And normally when I think of Guerlain, maybe it's because generally I gravitate, like I say, I own 6. I've probably smelt 20 to 30 of their perfumes. So when I think of Guerlain, I tend to gravitate towards those classics anyway. So for me, Guerlain is always classics, almost, in a way, like that. And so I feel like when I smell L'Homme Ideal, like, wow, this is different. This is not what I was expecting from Guerlain, and it's kind of strikingly modern, but at the same time, it does retain enough of that kind of classic Guerlain vibe. And when you do wear it, it still smells classy as all fuck. And like, you know, L'Homme Ideal cologne in general smells a lot like Dior Vetiver, which, you know, perhaps goes against it, because then you think, well, were they just trying to clone? But I don't think so. I think it's enough of a difference to warrant a release, but it's in that same line of like, it's just fresh, it's got grapefruit, a bit of citrus, and then it like this kind of like very smooth buttery vetiver, and, you know, like a lovely sort of vanilla but fresh, you know, like it's not, you wouldn't really say it's like high in the mix, and it's just really nice. And you spray it and you think, yeah, that smells fucking class. And I wear it all the time, like especially through the summer. It's one of those ones where you just pick it up and you go, I need to smell good, or I want to smell good. And a bit like what Dan was saying, you know, like you need something to lift your mood and brighten you up a little bit. And that's the one to pick, because you know that it's going to smell good no matter what. You know, if I was going like for a job interview or going out for dinner or going anywhere, in fact, like, and I could spend hours poring over what would be the perfect perfume for me to choose. When the reality is, it's probably this. Like, you know, it's just, it's versatile, and it is really good at the same time. Why it was discontinued, I have no idea. You know, it came out in that long, I think they're still doing it, aren't they? Where they're just pumping out flanker after flanker of L'Homme Ideal. But, you know, they released a L'Homme Ideal Cool a couple of years later, and I think maybe they thought it was treading on its toes, so they just binned off the cologne and stuck with the Cool. But I thought it was a brilliant perfume. I still think it is a brilliant perfume. The EDP as well, I think, is, a lot of people hate it, and I can understand why, but I think it's pretty good. But it's not the one that I picked. But, you know, I like it. It's weird, because it's, in a way, it's like you can see where they were trying. They're almost getting on a train of like that sweet, gourmandy, masculine, you know, like. But it is different, and it's original. And I think both of these perfumes are quite original, despite the fact I said that the cologne one smells a lot like vetiver. It's still different enough to be original. So that's kind of why I picked it, but mainly because it's just
this is sort of like going off a bit of a tangent. When you were talking about the flankers and the bringing out and then discontinuing the good one, I do feel, and I don't know if this is heresy or not, but I do feel the Guerlain are a bit guilty of having a beautiful classic and then pumping those flankers out. And a lot of them are limited editions, and they get to charge, particularly, in the Shalimar line or in some of the other lines, they'll bring out a limited edition, and it's very expensive for what it is anyway. And the FOMO, if you like that particular line, and it's not just, obviously I'm talking about Shalimar because that's the one that I like, but apparently Petit Rogue Noir does the same.
The Petit Rogue Noir, I was going to say, that's the one that has a million flankers that are just like... And
Mon Guerlain does the same as well. And, Mon Guerlain is gorgeous just as it is. It doesn't really need to be pickled about with. And I do wonder. I'm going to pickled about with it. I do wonder, and I'm going to be a bit maybe heretical and say, when something is so classy, there's something a little bit not so classy about bringing out a fuck ton of flankers, knowing that you're going to cause a load of FOMO in your fans. And then
because it makes great business sense.
Part of their business model,
business sense.
It does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's business rarely goes hand in hand with art, doesn't it? They're almost like diametrically opposed. Like, it's almost like, oh, you're getting your dirty fingers all over my Shalimar. Like, it's a bit icky, isn't it? Like, instantly. They're two ends of the spectrum, aren't they? Like,
they are.
Damien Hirst of perfume.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's, I don't know. I mean, there's no answer to that, obviously, and it's got not much to do with the actual House Cup, but I do, that's one of the things that I feel a little bit like, more recently with Guerlain, I'm like, just chill out with the flankers.
Like, with the one that I picked, the L'Homme Ideal, I feel like in a way as well, it's almost more egregious with that one because it's like, L'Homme Ideal I wouldn't even say is like a great classic of theirs, and then they pumped these flankers very fast, like they were like releasing like 2 or 3 a year, and it was like, and maybe more than that, I don't know, but it was over and over again, like every week there was a new L'Homme Ideal, and in a way it was like, I think it was a bit overdone with them because suddenly it was like, right, you've released this new perfume and now you've watered it down to like 50 different versions and I don't even know what it is anymore. And it instantly made it, I think, a slightly undesirable perfume. And I think that's probably why, like, if this got discontinued for being not very well received, I think it's not because it's a not good perfume. I think it's more likely because people were just like spent.
Confused.
They just oversaturated the L'Homme Ideal line with flankers.
I think when you were talking about wearing it the other week for fear of repeating myself again, I think my thoughts were sort of clear on it, that when they first released the Ideal, I thought, as soon as I smelled it, I was like, this is the most lackluster, phoning it in bullshit. And they kind of even, I'm sure the marketing materials even said, this is like a sort of reset for like Guerlain to like, go in against those kind of, those sort of mainstream men's sort of things. And like you say, it was destined to be that thing of where they'd make loads of flankers, just because, that's how they roll. And I kind of felt no, and I remember doing quite a scathing review and saying it was just boring, Tonka fucking soup bollocks, and it annoyed me because I was like, they're better than this, and why did they do that? And then that flanker came out, and like exactly just going back to what I was saying before about like the tiniest little tweak or just adding one thing to something that I thought was really mediocre and boring made it come alive. And I loved that perfume. I was like, oh my God, that is really great. So, and there's something to be said, and it is a bit of a cult thing, like in the kind of, people who are in the know really started to like it because that like juxtaposition of that like grapefruity sort of vetiver thing with the creamy, almondy sort of tonka-y thing is like, really like sort of classical, but like new, and it felt kind of modern and stuff. And I really liked that perfume, and I do. And I think for like in terms of like merit, and for the fact that it kind of saved that line, and it actually then made me retrospectively go back and revisit the original one and go, actually, do you know what? It wasn't too bad. It's missing some things for me, still what I thought. But it kind of, just that release, that discontinued flanker that's like, just went poof in the ether and only some people kind of remember it, actually made me sort of reevaluate the whole line and kind of have a bit more respect for the whole line. And some of the other flankers that are out are just like deepened kind of date night versions of that original one, and they're still not great, to be honest, and there was nothing that ever really touched that. Like you say, they did that cool one, which I feared when that came out that the other one would be discontinued, and that's what happened, because I think, like Ben rightly said, they were a bit too similar, but I think that has a slight mint note or something, doesn't it? But again, these are all just...
Oh, I've never tried it, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a slightly minty thing. But
it's interesting to me that there's no flanker for Derby. It's interesting to me the ones that they choose to flank and the ones that they don't.
Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah.
Just having a little look.
Yeah, I mean, my counter to that would be, where the fuck would you go with Derby,
Where do you go with perfection? But you can argue that about Shalimar as well, but
they've managed it.
Go on then. Argue that shit.
Well, I don't really know. I know we're meant to be like arguing that shit, but after your really honest appraisal of how Derby made you feel, I feel like I don't really want to argue against that. But what I do want to do is just maybe talk about, rather than saying it is the best Guerlain. I mean, it is fucking iconic, isn't it, really? And it, the fact that it's still not just in production, but selling so well. Interestingly, it's only their second best seller, and that Petit Robe Noir is their best seller at the moment. And Shalimar comes in second. I think there was a stat I was reading still, however, though, that it sells 108 bottles on average per hour globally. So that's not quite to a minute. That's still a lot, isn't it, for something that's over 100 years old?
108 bottles per hour.
Far off to a minute.
That's...
Yeah, it's not far off to a minute. That's a lot.
So a bottle every 30... Yeah, I know we can all do maths, but a bottle every 30 seconds, that's quite impressive.
For something that's so ancient, for it still to...
Shit.
Yeah, because they've got a lot of stuff that's actually older. Jiki's older. I think Mitsuko's older as well.
I think so.
But they don't sell at the same rate, which I think is interesting, and it's still very much, their flagship thing.
Just a couple of things. So your pick is Shalimar, right? It is. So I find interesting with Shalimar is that I'm surprised that it's as popular as it is in a way, because it isn't an easy perfume, I don't think.
No, I agree with that.
And I know that it's marketed as very feminine, but I know at least two men who wear it and find it actually quite masculine on them. The leather and the smoke is, they don't get necessarily so much of the bergamot or the vanilla. And I was wearing one of my iterations today, and it smelled very different in the cool weather, and in the various concentrations, it's so multifaceted. It is pretty phenomenal, I find. I mean, I do have a lot of the flankers, I have to say. I have trimmed my Shalimar collection, but I've got a vintage eau de cologne from 1968. I've got an eau de parfum from 1990. I've got an eau de toilette from 1990. I've got a pure parfum from 1993. I've got an eau de Shalimar from 2008, which is very different. Parfum Initial from 2011. I've got a straight cologne, which is different to the eau de cologne. The cologne came out in 2015, and I've got the filtre from 2020.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And I find that all of them have different.
There's James
versions.
coming in.
Yeah,
James just sneaking up on you.
No, so we've subtly transitioned to Shalimar now. Sorry, I know I have been listening to the conversation, but we're officially talking about your pick now, Shalimar. Yeah, we sort of segued into it through Ben.
We'll come back to.
You didn't go. I finished saying this and you've started saying this, but that's effectively where we've gone. So
that's just how slick we are.
Exactly. Yours is Shalimar. Sorry,
the art of the podcast.
So.
It's just the way you said.
I have got.
Yeah, you sounded like.
Expecting you to come through with.
I have got one of those. Sorry, you know my noises so well, right? So I was going to say this. I don't believe this, right? I'm just doing this to be a twat and be like devil's advocate, right? But don't you think Shalimar was a clone of Coty Emeraude? Discuss. What do you think?
Oh, I couldn't even answer that.
No, I don't think it was, because what happened was that
and you Fliss know about this.
Jacques Guerlain added the ethyl vanillin to Jicky, which was their best selling at the time in 1919. So they weren't duping Emeraude at all. Basically, they put ethyl vanillin into Jicky and came up with Shalimar. So actually you could say that Coty Emeraude was probably pissing about on the edges of Jicky before.
Yeah, I do.
Do you see what I'm saying?
It's interesting. No, I know, because you know about all this stuff, so it was interesting to get your take on that. So yeah, no, just put that out there.
I think it's interesting that people. One of the things that makes it interesting for me is, again, I'm not really fighting for it, but these are interesting, cool things I think about it. Is when people talk about synthetics in perfume. Guerlain were using synthetics over 100 years ago, so things like the ethyl vanillin and Jicky was like lauded as the first perfume with proper synthetics that wasn't just all naturals in. So when people talk about synthetics these days, they really are, and I'm the worst for it as well, but it's like such a pile of old crap, utter bollocks. Even these mad classics. Well, I
just think there's a kind of a slight misunderstanding of what synthetic means, and again, I'm not going to go over that because I'm always fucking going on about it, but and also no, but I think. No, but I think there's like a definition thing of if somebody, and there's nothing wrong with saying that something smells synthetic if you think that natural is what you're aiming towards, and we're not even talking about materials here, we're just talking about the overall vibe of the perfume. Yeah, being synthetic, then fine. If that's a sort of descriptor that you want to use. But the actual, the actual reality of materials and how they come about, on how they're made, essentially, there's nothing at all to be worried about being synthetic, because it almost like gives, that's the essence of perfumery. You need that kind of level of like control to be able to have those individual molecules and things to play around, and even have what we have today in modern perfumery. That's interesting. Anyway, Shalimar.
So
sorry.
Sorry, Fliss. I just wanted to go back to something you'd said about Shalimar being perceived as, whether it's perceived as feminine or masculine. And I think, to me, it's one of those perfumes that I'm sure when it was first created would have been strongly associated as feminine.
Very flappery.
But what's flapper? That's one of Ben's words, isn't it? Flapper.
Well, it's one of the reasons it's got this bad girl image for such a long time, was because all the flappers who were like, they used to put it behind their knees, with their newly exposed knees, that whole kind of thing.
Well, all I was going to say was, I think tastes have changed. I mean, there was I guess aldehydes were at some point indicative of a feminine perfume, and these days not so much. I don't think it would mean that, and I think it's one of those perfumes that's been around for so long that the sort of ground, if you like, of what defines or what's perceived as masculine or feminine has sort of changed underneath
completely.
it. And so it's still marketed as feminine because that sort of bottle, that beautiful looking. I don't know, what's it meant to be?
Bottle, there's a bat bottle, but then there's lots of other bottles. There's tulip-shaped bottles, umbrella bottles. I've got some lovely longer ribbed bottles. Sorry. I had to snort.
Yeah. People. Yeah, we all saw exactly the same thing with the hand movements and the description. Yeah,
but the cologne version in particular is so much more smoky and leathery.
Is that the deco one? The cologne, the bottle. It's kind of Art Deco kind of vibes.
Well, I think there's the Parfum de Toilette, which is square with like the mini bat inside. But the cologne that I've got one that's almost like a shooting target with a little on the top. But I've also got one that is long and ribbed. I will go and show you if you like.
You keep that to yourself.
Yeah. But the cologne or the eau de cologne is, I think it's so unisex. The leather is really strong in it, very, very smoky. Not so much the vanilla at all, and the bergamot is very bright at the top. And I just think if I smelt a man wearing that, I'd be like, yeah, totes.
Totes.
It's gorge.
It's totes.
I know we're kind of talking about the perfumes rather than the bottles as well, but like this Shalimar bottle in particular, like this little shaped one, I'm not sure what you call it. I don't know. It's so good.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I know like often we say, oh, that's got a nice bottle about perfumes in it. And that's true. Right. But I don't even think this bottle is that nice, but it's so evocative of Guerlain and French perfumery and what it smells like. It's so good. It's so...
And there's so
I don't
many
even need to open this and smell it before I know what it's going to be like. Yeah. It's brilliant.
I think when it came out, the original bottle won a design award because it was so beautiful. And I think that they've really riffed on it, especially all the flankers. I think half the time with the flankers, I don't really care what's inside. I just want another one of those pretty bottles that's ever so slightly different to the other ones to line up.
What was the one they did that was like dark blue? Is it souffle? It was dark blue with like peacocks on
yes.
it. That was amazing.
There's one on eBay for £300. It's been on my watch list for over a year.
Just to bring us back down to...
It's clearly not selling.
No, it's not selling, but I've offered less.
I'm going to make that noise again.
Bastards.
They're just showing off, basically. I got a really bad Guerlain, but you're not going to have it.
James is coming in hot.
Obviously, we've spoken about the kind of Orientalism and all that kind of stuff before. What is is it supposed to be like a boat? Is it supposed to be like kind of... Or is it like a lamp? Is it like a genie lamp?
It's the base of the fountains in the Shalimar Gardens in Lahore, which is the Shah Jahan, when his wife, I think his Mumtaz, died, he built the shrine opposite the name of the big beautiful shrine has just completely gone out of my head.
I don't know, but even this much, I am absolutely mesmerised by your knowledge. I mean, you kind of
the Taj Mahal,
put me to shame. Yeah.
So that was in Agra, but then he also built the Shalimar Gardens, which were in Lahore, and the shape of the original bottle, which is like that bat but also ribbed, is one of the bowls of some of the fountains that were there. and then the top, I think, is something else that is from some plateware from the Guerlain family, and it just so happened the design of this particular dish fits so beautifully on the bottom of this bottle that it's just, I think it's just a design classic.
I didn't know that. That's
exquisite.
That's cool.
And there is a lot of, I think there is a lot of Orientalism around it, and it's really hard, I think, when we go on about some brands that should remain nameless, who we think that are, there is a load of, what's the word? Orientalism, which is not great. But this was 100 years ago. People didn't think like that, and there was a romance to it. And
if you look at it through a historical lens, though, it's still very romantic. Like, I love that Victorian Orientalism and that idea, and I can see. I see it, obviously someone who's into social history, I understand the implications of it and what it meant and, and what it was all about. Of course I understand that. But at the same time, I love that, the grandiosity of it. Do you know what I mean? Like that, it was, and also I feel what they are, I understand a little bit of what they were doing as well. That sense of the exotic, and like that wonderment of the exotic.
And none of that, now anybody who wants can just, if you've got the money, can nip and go and see the Taj Mahal, or go and see the Shalimar
But then it
Gardens.
was like, whoa, to them it was this whole new world, and it was magical. And I understand, obviously, the implications. Say like nowadays we look at Orientalism, it's a very bad thing. It's a colonial kind of thing. It's empire, imperialism, all that garbage that goes with it. But just as an aesthetic, like as an
doesn't negate the beauty.
It's gorgeous, and it's got a lot of romantic.
Beautiful things can still come out of something that you think is problematic nowadays, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's still the beauty of it is undeniable. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I think the collecting, and it is a complete madness the moment you start going down the Shalimar collecting route. I mean, there's some fantastic blogs that talk about how to date your bottles. People talk, ad infinitum about the different nuances in various releases and various changes that have happened due to reformulation or now IFA and all of that kind of stuff. But it is a madness, and it is, for me, so much of it is about the beautiful bottles as well. And it's one of the few perfumes where in fact, it's the only perfume in my collection that I actually really give a shit about in terms of the design of all the bottles as well being as important. And to the extent that some of the stuff that I have, I will happily do a split with someone, and I will keep the bland decant bottle and let them have the bottle of the perfume. But I'm not like that with Shalimar. With Shalimar, it's the aesthetic of the whole thing. Just each of the bottles is exquisite. And then you put the perfume on, and it's rich and leathery, and occasionally, it can be fresh at the same time. And it just is... There is, like you say, Ben, there's a romance about it as a whole piece. And I find it very hard to pick it apart, other than I'm mad for it.
Okay, let's play another numbers round. How many Shalimar perfumes, Shalimar and flankers, are there listed on Fragrantica?
Oh, I should
56.
know and I don't.
No, just best guess. Fliss. 56 from Ben. Okay, Fliss?
I think that's a pretty good guess, actually, Ben, to be honest.
You can't have the same number.
60,
Higher or lower?
63.
I'm going to go...
Okay. James?
51.
51. James wins again. The correct number is 42.
Oh. I don't know.
Which is still an absurd number, by the way.
It is.
It's a ridiculous number. But I love the fact that, fuck it, 56. I mean, that seems like a sensible fucking number. And then it's like, now we've baselined at 56. Maybe I should go a bit higher.
Yeah,
63.
totally.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, so we've heard about L'Homme Cologne. We've heard about Shalimar. James.
Mine's a bit of a weirdo. Now, I think me and Ben are just kind of trying to mix it up a bit, fucking punk style, like we tend to do.
Yeah, no, which is fair.
So, I think I have picked something that I obviously, all the classicness of Guerlain is not missed on me, but I've picked something that I don't know whether people are going to like it, but I think it's a modern classic, and it's what I'm going to chuck into the ring, which is Encens Mythique.
Yeah. Oh, whoa.
Yeah, so bit of a curveball, because I'll just start by saying that we're talking about trends that Guerlain have, which they have loads of these, right? And usually the trend is that they release a perfume years ago, it gets long discontinued, and then people go, oh yeah, or they dig it out of the thing and go, oh, let's redo this, and we'll put it in a different bottle. We maybe make it slightly less, slightly less volume on the mills, and we'll charge twice as much for it. And people buy it and go, oh yeah, great, and they've done that quite a few times with various different perfumes. But in this case, right, they actually took, it was called Encens Mythique, wasn't it? And they didn't even change the name. They changed some of the other ones, like the Songe d'Etumbois or whatever it's called. They changed that to Bois Mysterio. Songe d'été.
Songe d'été.
No, just called d'été. Songe d'été, something like that. Anyway, I'm just making the point that they redid these kind of they are bee bottles, but they're not the bee bottles, so they're kind of like plasticky things. They do have a bee on the top, and they are in the shape of the bee bottles, but they, you know what I mean. And they were roundly sort of fucking hated, I would say. A lot of people are like, oh, they're overly synthetic, the usual kind of thing, and oh, what is Thierry Vassar doing? Blah blah blah. And the ones that are most liked are probably maybe the Oud one. No, not the Oud one. The Santal Royal, which I think is pretty awful. But anyway, and Encens Mythique, which Encens Mythique to me is one of the best modern perfumes that there is, because it kind of it's almost like a reflection of all that old powdery sheeper-esque kind of stuff, but it has that skanky, like we're talking about Jicky, and we're talking about that moustache one, and all those kind of, like they have that slight saliva on skin, ambergris, inflected sort of like thing to them, which is very almost like creepy, but so classy and just like lovely, and to me it kind of epitomizes sort of perfumery and Guerlain and all that sort of stuff. And I think this does that, but it also has this kind of turbo ambroxan, like in your face, like it lasts so much, and it has this like musky rose like little thing running through it, and there's so much to it. It's an amazing perfume, right? I don't know if anybody... Are you familiar with Encens Mythique?
I always think, though, that it doesn't smell to me like... Which is what... I'm essentially agreeing with you, but just... It doesn't smell like a Guerlain.
And this is precisely why I've sort of picked it, because...
This is why you're saying it, because it's so not.
No.
It hasn't got that Guerlainade. And it's modern in a way that I think that they don't do so much.
Can I just pause 1 second? So you just used that expression, Guerlainade, and I always feel a little bit sort of unsure about what that means. Does it just mean the DNA of the house, or was there actually a perfume called Guerlainade?
It was a base that they used to use, and they have released it as a perfume, but I can look it up.
It's kind of vanilla-y.
Yeah, I always thought it was that soft, powdery vanilla-y base.
It's a specific vanilla-y base. and it's very powdery, yeah, all of these things. But it was something that was created, and it is like the house DNA base. But there was one release that was just the Guerlain, which is very rare,
which I'd sort of inferred. Do you imply inferred? I'd inferred. I get mixed up about inference and implication, but imply puts meaning in, inference takes meaning out. I had taken the meaning out. I'd learnt that that's what it meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. Right. Yeah. Back to what you were talking about. Not Guerlain, but you just used that word and it triggered me.
That's okay.
Is it?
Yeah, I wasn't talking.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that's really my sort of hat in the ring, and I know that, like, again, I'm talking about Thierry Vasseur as like, and I heard a rumor, shall we say, of somebody who spoke to Thierry Vasseur. So maybe I might be putting horrible lies out there, but I don't think so, because I think somebody either said to me that they made a joke or they said something to Thierry Vasseur about Petit Robe Noir flankers, saying, oh, well, thank God. Or he actually said to them, I'm sick of making these Petit Robe fucking Noir flankers, right? Because that does not turn me on. That doesn't do anything for me, like, perfumery-wise. It's not why I want to be head perfumer at Guerlain. I might be sort of embellishing that a little bit, but whether he would say that to somebody, maybe off the record he would, I don't know, but that's kind of what...
I mean, I wouldn't blame him if he did.
I wouldn't either. And almost like some people think that some of those, because some of them are bad and they're quite screechy and they're really in your face. I own 4 of them from that brand. And sorry, I'm coming back to my original point that I was making that I didn't really make very well. The Encens Mythique, not only... when I was saying about what Guerlain do, they take an old perfume and they reboot it essentially years later and charge more for it and for less. Well, in this instance, they actually charged less for more, and I thought they were very, very competitively priced and just great value for money. Go and buy them. I'm certainly not getting any money from fucking Guerlain. But that line are always on offer at places, and they're always like, they seem to be, like I say, they're either loved or hated, and mostly hated from what I can tell, because a lot of people are like, yeah, it doesn't have that Guerlain, Guerlain, it doesn't have those like classic sort of things. And if you look at all of them, they don't. They're all quite screechy. They're all quite in your face and like hard and all that. And it was almost, it's almost like, why are you picking from that line? But that one in particular is the best one. And I actually think it's a really strong perfume compared to any of that. And it almost gets on my tits as well, because it is really strong, right? Really strong. But like, if you know how to apply it properly and just, wear a little bit and stuff, and it's so relentless, I can get why people would put it in that screechy, annoying sort of category, but it's like just some ethereal, just other words that kind of mean nothing. It's all those words. And yeah, I just think it's brilliant. And it had to be, a pick that I thought was slightly left field, and that's what I picked.
Cool. No, it's good. It's a good suggestion, and it's definitely not sort of. I think it would have been. I would have had my money on you picking one of the.
I could have gone Mitsuko. I'd probably, to be honest, my favourite out of all of them is Mitsuko. Out of all of those, kind of classic ones, or even.
What about the moustachy one? What's it called?
I've got that. So that is one of my, ones that I've got. And I love it for almost the same reason that I'm saying about Encens Mythique, because it has that creepy, like, salivary skin, slightly halitosis breath sort of like thing to it, which I just weirdly love. And yeah, I do like that. And obviously it's a classic formula and one of their sort of earlier perfumes. And yeah, it's great, but like it didn't. I'm a very forward-facing sort of like person. Like I like modern perfuming. I like the idea of obviously, yeah, okay, we can borrow from all these things, but how are we innovating? How are we moving things forward to create like modern classics? And it's hard sometimes when you're in the era of something to truly appreciate it. And I think that's somewhat what maybe is going on with those. But and time might tell, you know.
It is interesting, isn't it? That the house is so classic that even the newer stuff that they release still sits very much in that classical feel. And you are right. There's very little that feels bang up to date, you know, in comparison to something like a Geza Schoen release or something. You know, there's nothing that's going down that, you know, modern perfumery route at all. They are so classic that it is interesting that, and you know, the best that they can do is, or the best that they dare to do, it must be to do with their customer bases, those fruit chuli kind of Petit Robe Noirs, or those overly sweet vanillas or whatever.
Even the like I was mentioning earlier, the L'Homme Idéal Parfum. There's something like almost like quite postmodern about that. I think, like, you know, despite the fact that it's clearly their effort to be like a, like, you know, date night masculine sweet thing, but there's still something quite postmodern about it that sets it apart.
Yeah.
I just, as we were going through it, I remembered another Guerlain I do have. I have a old style Heritage, which I think is superb. I think it's absolutely superb, but every time I wear it, and at least they are consistent, the kids say, "Oh my God, you smell like an old man." Which is like, yeah, fucking cool. That's what I was going for. But I really like that. A lot of them are very, very sort of classical, I guess. But yeah, when you were saying about the more modern stuff, I think the L'Homme Idéal range generally is quite modern smelling, I thought, and none of them. We've been talking. I just bought a bottle of the cologne because you made such a good case.
Is it cheap? Because they're usually quite cheap.
I got it's like about 40ml full for 30 quid, which is seems fine. So I bought that off Josh, which I'm sure will be fine. Nothing can go wrong. But that's one of the ones that I haven't tried. But the others all felt, you know, a little bit saccharine to me, actually, and a little bit too sweet and modern for my tastes generally. I guess you know, we can vote, I guess, on who wins, but it's not that important. That I think we've all made an interesting case for our perfumes. But here's a question: if you were talking to a perfume newbie, and said, you know, where do you start with this, right? Where would you tell someone to start with the House of Guerlain? I mean, and you can choose a couple, I guess. You know, it doesn't have to just be one. Because I mean, I think it's a bit like The West Wing, right? You know the TV show The West Wing. There's like about 6,000 episodes, but so it's quite intimidating in the same way that looking at 509 perfumes on Fragrantica is it's quite a daunting sort of task to even know where you'd start. At least with The West Wing, you start with episode 1, and you know they're helpfully labelled, and you go in order. With Guerlain, you know,
with the 4 that we've suggested,
what would you pick? Yeah, no, actually, that's a pretty fucking good call. Yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, I would also probably say Mitsuko.
I was going to say
you have to try Mitsuko.
I think you have to do. Certainly, if you're femme leaning, I think you have to try Mitsuko, Shalimar, possibly Nehema.
Mitsuko's not femme leaning.
Theory. I mean, the ones I'm adding are femme leaning. I was going to say Nehema,
okay,
and also Le Bleu, Bleu Bleu, which I can never say.
Le Bleu.
And then potentially something like Insolence or something. But those.
I was going to say Insolence. Yeah. I was asking. Yeah, like.
And I would also say
starting point.
I would also say just get them in the modern formulation as well, and then worry about going down the vintage Guerlain once you've decided if you like something. But just try them in the modern, because actually they've done. I think there was a period, definitely 10 years ago, that some of the modern formulations weren't amazing. And I think they've tried really hard. They might not be the same as a vintage, but they've tried really hard, I think, to tighten that up recently. So just try them in the modern. Cool. And in terms of the men, the sort of more masculine stuff, I don't know. That's not so much something that I'd know about. So one of you guys would need to give them some advice.
By Derby.
Just by Derby, be done with
Just by.
Do you know, I would probably, if we're just talking about hypotheticals and all perfumes are available, I would probably say Derby anyway, because it's a really good perfume and it's not particularly difficult, and it also, I think, doesn't smell particularly like things like Abbey Rouge, which would probably be another one that maybe people choose, or Lidge, which again, but Lidge and Abbey Rouge and stuff, they've got those classical, slightly old manish vibes, whereas Derby, I don't think does. I think no. You know, I think you can wear that as a, you know,
I think
perfectly modern young man's perfume or whatever. I think it would fine.
I think I said this
maybe a little bit too classy. But.
Well, it's very classy, but I think I said this maybe. I think James had said he'd worn Patou, and Patou and Derby are very much from the same world of perfumery, but I feel like Patou feels old, and Derby feels timeless for me. So yeah, I you know, if everything's available, I would wholly recommend Derby. But I think, I mean, funnily enough, I tried the modern version of Derby again quite early on, went into perfumes, and it didn't really do anything for me at the time. And I'm not saying, you know, you have to be a seasoned perfumista or something, and you know, but I don't know. I'm always a little bit hesitant about recommending stuff to people that's like maybe a bit less obvious than, you know, Terre d'Hermès and Aventus, and you know, here's things that will make you smell nice. Something like Derby, I can well imagine people smelling it and going, "Oh, it's all right, I guess." Or maybe even going, "Oh, I don't even like that." Because
I think anything with leather's a little bit of a risk for someone.
I guess that's fair.
You, I think.
But I think also if
because leather is
if you're starting out though, I think that all of these things need to be smelt so that you have a benchmark against other stuff, so that at least there's an understanding, or the beginning of an understanding of what really quality French classical perfumery looks like. And even if you don't think it's for you, being able to smell it and appreciate it, even if you don't want to wear it, I think is a really useful thing for you to train your nose to do. Because
absolutely,
just because.
Just because.
And Guerlain is a great house for that, you know, in terms of classical French perfumery. It's the house. So get your nose around some shit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, look. Let's
get your nose round some shit.
Get your nose round some shit. Is basically the name of my next album, I think.
Amaze.
So let's sort of bring it into land. I mean, how do you do a house like Guerlain justice in an hour and a bit? The answer is, well, you don't really. But, you know, we've had, I think, a good conversation around some of it. I've found some fascination in the numbers. 509 fragrances listed, 42 Chalimars. That in itself is really quite something, I would say.
Was that like 8 or 9% of their perfumes?
Yeah.
I was going to say, it'd be interesting to do the Petit Robe Noir, because it'll be like about 20%.
I didn't even look, but yeah, that's good. Okay, I mean, I don't think there's even any sense in voting on this, because I think everybody's brought fucking brilliant perfumes and good arguments to the table. Derby for me will remain forever in my top sort of handful of perfumes. It is a remarkable thing for me. Final thoughts, James?
Not really. I think Fliss sort of wrapped it up nicely in her last little bit that she said about. I think it is important for people to certainly check out Guerlain if you're not familiar with them. I mean, unfortunately, there can be a tendency to sort of focus on all like niche, especially people who are like first getting into it and stuff, and not even really know the significance of a house like Guerlain. I don't know how you wouldn't, but certainly if you get into perfume, it's pretty apparent. Even though I'd say that their kind of presence is still there, and it'll always have the legacy and everything, but has it been tarnished recently with prices? And again, we could go on and talk more about that, because I know a lot of people who are hardcore Guerlain fans who are a bit disillusioned right now with the whole setup.
Well, that new range are horrifically expensive, and it's sad, I think, because
I've had a few of those sort of come through my hands as part of that collection that I mentioned previously. What were they? Queer Beluga, and Oud Nude. Oud Nude, by the way, very nice, but it is basically Arabian oud calamat in a Guerlain bottle. So at 10 times the price.
I've just remembered two things. I've remembered my 14th perfume. Yeah, I have. I never thought I would, right? But
fucking
back to Guerlain. How mad is that, right? So I wore Nikolai. Which fucking one was it? I wore one of those Nikolai. Which one was it? No, it was the Queer Cuba or Queer Cuba. Is that one? It's a kind of tobacco leather.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really like it, to be honest. It's very Patricia. What's her face? Anyway, Patricia de Nicolai. Apparently, now I heard this on the grapevine. She's made the new Guerlain Extras. So she's clearly back in the fold. You know, because obviously there was quite a, well-known... Yeah.
Have you been chatting to Rich Mitch?
And he's not going to be wrong, I don't think.
Oh, the gossip. He's a gossip, isn't he? No, he's not going to be wrong.
But isn't that interesting that, because I thought there was kind of beef or a little bit of or bitterness or whatever there.
I thought she'd been sort of excluded, and that's why she set up her own house, her own brand. Queer Cuba by her is I thought it was very rough.
Yeah. It reminds me of, and I said this in a bit of an update review that I did the other day, in that I sort of work in... I'd done a lot of going into factories where they make wet wipes for like work, and they have a horrible generic smell, because obviously they have lots of different detergents and surfactants and fragrances and all kinds of different things, like chemicals and stuff, and they all have this sort of generic smell that's kind of left behind, and it's really aggressively soapy, kind of. It's bizarre, and you kind of get used to it. You sort of go through a barrier, and if you're there for any more than an hour, you kind of get used to it. But like for that time, you're like, fucking hell, this is oppressive. It kind of has that vibe to it, which is never good, you know. But it does also have like creamy sort of tobacco. I get the tobacco from it, but yeah, not a great perfume and quite annoying to wear, to be honest. But anyway, no, that's interesting about the Nikolai. And sorry, I'm talking about Guerlain. Wrap it up. That's it. Yeah, bye.
Excellent. Fliss, any final thoughts from you?
I was a bit nervous about the idea of a house cup, because the last time we did it, we were all really like, right, and kind of on it. But actually what I've really enjoyed about this evening was just the acknowledgement that it's impossible to choose or to talk about it. And we've all just really talked about our favourite Guerlains. And I feel as if I know you all a bit better again. I love those. I love it when that happens.
Excellent. Well, that's very sweet, but I may now throw up. Ben, any thoughts? Assuming you've not been, what was the word? Dabbing? Cobbing.
Not been cobbing, no. I don't know, really. Just, I think Guerlain is a difficult house sometimes, especially because we were just talking about for newbies and stuff, and like, where do you start and stuff. And it's like, it's tough because they're so like the aftermarket for Guerlain is an absolute minefield. You search Guerlain on eBay and you're faced with like £300, £600, £800, £1,000. But they're the ones you want. Like most of the time, you're told constantly by the fragrance community that, if you want Shalimar, you need the old one. Yeah. If you want Sam Sarah, you want the old. If you want Jicky, you've got to get the one from 1916 or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And then you go, okay, well, I'll look on eBay, and then they're £1,000 for like 20 mil in some scabby old bottle that someone's found in some like flea market or whatever, or that their nan's died, so they're selling a bottle of Jicky that's like been like fucking fermenting on a tableside in some seaside town somewhere for like 25 years. But anyway, I just find that side of Guerlain a bit like, to be honest, it's what puts me off like vintage perfumery in general, is like trying to dabble within the like vintage Guerlain market has just made me just walk away and just go nah. But having that said, just as a general house, great, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I think the sheer volume and the quality within that volume is quite something, really. And yeah, I mean, it's such a weird house cup to do because it's just such an enormous fucking task. I think we could arguably. I mean, even if we talked about every Guerlain perfume we knew, we probably wouldn't make a dent on the total numbers, but we'd certainly get through multiple hours of conversation on it. So, surprised we managed to get through so much in this time. Okay, well, look, let's wrap it up. It has, as always, been a phenomenal few hours. We will return in a couple of weeks with a what is it? It's going to be a Christmas special, I guess. Special. Yes, where there will be all manner of discussion about things like pre-cum, about dog shit, sister fingering, the whole
all the stuff, all the stuff you've learned to expect from us.
Oh my God!
And sports frags. Yes, we all know what they do to Fliss's vagina. So
it is actually a L'Homme as well. There is.
God. Right. Well, I shall go and enjoy that particular moment. Right. It's been a fucking pleasure. We will be back in 2 weeks' time with our Christmas special. Until then, we have been Les Oderants. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.